Episode 182 of the Wilderness Podcast is brought to you by our supporters. If you want to support, if you want to support the show, you can go to patreon.com/thewilderness-podcast. So I want to dedicate this episode to Mr. Sean. Yeah, it's just Sean. Now we also dedicate to our top tier supporters: Gentinu, Splimo, Aldo P, Mateoas, Sejuan, Mallard, Twisted Soul, Hoyt, and super duper shout out to Astrocity. Holy crap, that stumble at the beginning really screwed me up. But we don't do retakes here. Of course, if Patreon's not your thing, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/dills. So thank you to Caradoc, Issa Cole World, and 2JZ Soup. Thank you guys so much. Welcome to episode 182 of the Wilderness Podcast. Today's episode. It's me, Dills, and joining with me is Heartless. That's a little shambly this early on in the recording, but how's it going, Heartless?
It's doing well.
Good. 182 episodes in, and still can't quite get down these intros all the time.
That's okay.
That's all right. This is a big episode. We got a lot of big news dropped on us. We had what they called the Summer Summit happened. It was both predictable and I guess unpredictable, but they kind of gave us the roadmap for the next 6 months. This is kind of their version of Runefest, but I think Runefest always kind of focused on like the next year. This one is just the 6 months roadmap. But still, it looked pretty great. Should we tease what they talked about?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, we should tease what we can't hold it until later on. But yeah, they teased. Let's see. They opened up the Summer Summit talking about. Wait for it. Yeah, that's right. Dead Man mode is coming back, baby. You hate it, you love it. Something goes wrong every single tournament, so it gives us stuff to talk about. So how can you not look forward to Dead Man mode? But this is a whole new take on the Dead Man mode idea. And of course, we're going to go into it later and we'll play some clips of the announcement itself. But Dead Man mode is their take on, I think last episode I talked about Escape from Tarkov.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if they took what that game was and put it into RuneScape. Basically, it's the wilderness through every area in RuneScape. But instead of having level restrictions, anyone can kill anyone. And if you get killed, not only do you lose the gear you have on you, but you lose a bunch of gear in your bank. Super cutthroat. It's their whole quote unquote high risk, high reward. But that plays out for a limited time. And then once that's all finished, they do what they call the final hour, even though it's never an hour. It's always like half a day. And it becomes a tournament, and the last one alive ends up getting a bunch of money. So they're taking that idea, and they call it Dead Man Mode Reborn because they're took a lot of elements from leagues, the past 2 leagues they've done, and they're applying it to Dead Man Mode to make something brand new to see how it plays out. It's always been an interesting game mode because similar to leagues, you get accelerated experience rates, and the rules seem to change every single season. So that's Dead Man mode, but this one's going to be very interesting. But yeah, then after that, they announced what everyone, I don't know, I shouldn't say what everyone's been waiting for, but what some people have waited for: Group Iron Man. Heartless, you're an Iron Man yourself. How do you feel about Group Iron Man?
I think it's a good concept and pretty exciting for certain people, but I think it's taken too much of their resources up.
Yeah, you think so, eh?
Yeah. Like, I think it's a nice niche thing, but it's not going to be for everyone. And it seems like it has really taken a ton of engine work to get it going. And that has been really stumping them on releasing it. Like, what was it, like 2 years ago they announced it, and we're not even getting it until the fall. So,
yeah, and they had to do a whole clan rework and everything for it.
I'm personally not going to, I already have an Iron Man, so it doesn't make any sense to me to do it. But I could see couple people in the clan doing it. But I think the best thing to come from Group Iron Man will be the YouTube content. If that's something you like.
The big one. Yeah, that'll be the big one. And you even see it, they teased it themselves when they opened up with this announcement by playing some skits basically from featuring a bunch of content creators on YouTube and Twitch. So you'll have to go on YouTube and watch that if that's something you're interested in. It was funny. It was enjoyable. But it kind of just to show like the whole idea is you have Iron Man mode, you have your main account mode. Group Iron Man is like somewhere in the middle where you can play with a small group of people, like a small group of friends. That's the idea. You have a group of 5 friends. You all make Iron Man together. Ideally, you're all as committed as each other, and you can, all work towards something. So if you get 2, I don't know, Bandos chest plates, at least now you could give it to one of your friends to use. And there's going to be a shared bank system and all that stuff too. So, of course, that appeals to a niche amount of players. But as you said, it's I think content creators were really pushing for it, and they're going to be having a lot of fun with it. And ultimately, that's not a bad thing because that just makes more content, which might bring more eyes. It's a good marketing plan.
Yeah, I assume they're going to make quite a bit of money from it, just like Deadman mode. The reason Deadman mode keeps coming back for those of you who don't play is it makes them a ton of money with subscribers and like membership. So at least that's what I've heard from within the J mods. So that's why they keep bringing it back.
Yeah, and it gives them this event they can put on every, I don't know, 4 months, let's say, and it tends to get a bunch of views on Twitch, which helps with people who don't play RuneScape noticing it. So that might be some new players.
It's fun to watch, like as an outsider. I've never played Deadman. I don't like the concept of losing everything. That's
it's cutthroat.
It's very cutthroat. But this time they've tried to make it a little bit better for solo players.
Yeah, better, and then also they have some very interesting. They've completely done it. Like there's a few things that make me go like, wow, that's gonna make me not want to play it, but at the same time, who knows? I really got to try it. I always jump into it on the first day it's released because it's always jam-packed. Everyone's level 3 running around. That's always pretty fun, but there is a big fall off after the first couple of weeks as the gap between the strongest players and the weakest players continues to grow. It's not always fun to get stomped on, but they're making it so that gap is slowly closing. But anyways, as you mentioned, it's great for marketing the game, and that's why I think we're seeing Group Iron Man mode, just to tie it back there.
Yeah, and I the same thing for the third announcement that you're about to preview here.
Yeah, exactly. So the third one is yet another way to play the game, really, with the third iteration of leagues coming out. So similar to Deadman mode, you start your account from level 3, but there's different restrictions and rules applied onto this season of leagues, and you get accelerated experience rates. In the last few leagues, there were relics you could unlock that allowed you to do more damage, or gave you unlimited run, or gave you the ability to teleport to specific places unlimited amount of times. You unlock different perks basically for your account that you can then really have a buffed out account depending on what playstyle you liked. So leagues is it's not really like it's a tournament, but it's not like Deadman mode where there's a finale. Leagues, instead, you grind out points, which can then, depending on how well you do, you'll get a trophy once it's done for the main game, and you get a bunch of points converted into, I guess, league points, which you can spend on various different rewards from past and present leagues. So it's it's a way for, if you're bored with your account and you're bored with RuneScape, maybe try out the next league and you might enjoy it because it gives you just a different way to play the game. Finally, the big announcement. I got so friggin' excited when I saw this one. The third raid is coming out, called the Tomb of Damascus.
Tome. There he goes again with his pronunciations.
I know, man. The Discord really laid it in thick this week, didn't they, with my pronunciation?
As they should. You have something of a problem with pronouncing words, but it's okay. It's all funny.
It's the the shtick of the show.
The shtick. There you go.
Yeah. Oh God, words are very difficult. And I guess they'll continue to say that way. But anywho, new raid coming out, desert themed, not quite the Sands of Time as we had been pitching, but pretty damn close. And of course, it will be featured with a whole desert expansion, not Menaphos, but instead we will be getting a new quest, which will be continuing the desert storyline. And with it, we'll get some cool rewards as well. So boom, there you go. As much as I wanted to hold off on all these announcements and just play them out when we get to the news segment of the show, damn, I was way too excited. We have to tease. For anyone who might have missed the Summer Summit, that is what is going on in the next 6 months. But we're definitely going to go more in detail. We're going to play the clips of them announcing it as well, so you can hear it straight from the mod's mouth. And yeah. Now, before we get into it, we did get an update this week. We're just going to slap this one in the end here. A Night at the Theater got reworked. So that's a quest that, well, quote unquote quest that came out. We talked about it maybe like 4 episodes ago. It came with entry mode and hard mode Theater of Blood, and it was never a quest. You talked to a guy and he was like, cool, you did that raid. Here's some experience lamps. Now they made an actual quest. So we'll lightly touch on that as well. Yeah, but before we get into all that, Heartless, what have you been up to this week?
Oh man, so I got the second shot on like Tuesday. So
nice.
I was like pretty sick the next day. I was in bed mostly.
Oh, it hit you hard?
Yeah, it hit me hard. So I couldn't really do much on RuneScape. I actually jumped on and I decided I was like kind of in a weird mental state. I was like tired and I was like, you know what I should do right now? I should go do some Vedion. I don't know why I thought I should go and do that, but I did.
You should like a fever dream.
I did 35 kills without seeing a single PKer. It was crazy.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah, and I didn't get anything, but it was all I needed to get like KC for the elite combat achievements.
Yeah.
So I thought that was funny, and then the next day I went back feeling much better. On the second day after I had the shot, and I just got instantly PK'd both times I tried to go. So it was a very
oh, that's weird.
It was a strange situation, but it's nice to get some Vedion chipped out. I did the easy and medium combat achievements, so that took up the first little part of my week. You
did all of the easy and medium? I got
yeah, all of them, so I could get the hilt, which is a pretty nice reward. The teleport up to the God Wars dungeon, I quite enjoy it. I've been using it for clue scrolls and stuff like that.
Yeah, it would be useful, wouldn't it?
No, I mean it's just as useful as like a bunch of the things you get from achievement diaries. So I don't really see people's issue, and it's like technically easier than achievement diaries sometimes, especially the later tiers. That's pretty much it. I did like another 50 or 60 gauntlets. I'm slowly getting convinced that I'm going to turn my Blade of Saildor into the new bow as soon as I basically have enough. I need one more armor seed, and I think I'm going to make the plunge.
So you can convert your weapons back and forth. You'll probably lose the charges though, right?
Yeah, so it's like a hard choice. So my blade is corrupted right now, which means I spend 1,000 charges to make it infinite. So I could revert it for free back to a seed, and then I have to spend like 100 and something shards or 250 to turn it into the bow. I don't know the numbers. And then I have to spend 2,000 to corrupt the bow, but I think I'm just going to leave it uncorrupted and use it for a while. And then hopefully I just got a twisted bow. I can put it back into a blade. But nice. I don't really know. I did a DK's task the other day, and I took the blowpipe down to prime, and it's just like it felt like it wasn't hitting anything. And I was like, really, like downgrading to a whip again isn't going to be so bad. And I'm just going to be leech at Tob and just bring a normal whip because I can't be asked to get more. It's going to be fine, dude. I'm not too worried about it.
Yeah, it does seem like the bow would probably benefit your account more. Do you know, is the bow better than T-bow at some places?
It is a very, very small place, very like niche places like Mystics and stuff like that. Anywhere where the things don't have super high magic, so that the T-bow's passive doesn't kick in, it's very good at places like let's see, like Kree and Sarah and Bandos. And I'm assuming Zami as well. It's all like comparable to the T-bow. I mean, the T-bow sucks at bandos, but it's good at the other three. So I just feel like if I was in a position where I had just gotten the armor seed, it would be no questions asked. I would make the bow and just never go back. So I think I just have to do it. It's like one of those things that feels bad, but I think it's probably worth it. And hopefully I can just snipe a rapier from Theater of Blood at some point, and then that'll sort me. I did manage to get a Sarah or whatever, the Justy helm the other day.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I broke my 145 dry streak. It was getting pretty bad.
Oh, wow.
That's pretty much it. I did like a whole Calfight Queen task. Got the jar of sand.
Nice.
Yeah, it's not been the most exciting week, but it's kind of been chipping away at random goals here and there.
You know what the biggest thing for you with the group Ironman? They're going to work to allow people to come visit other Ironmen or women's houses.
Yay, you can come see how many jars I've collected, which is 6 or 7 of the really good jars as well.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, if you're an Iron, no one can visit your POH.
Yeah, it sucks.
It sucks, right? If you pimp out your POH, because there's things that cost like 200 mil and they're just decoration. If you pimp your house out with that, you don't even get to show it off with it to anyone.
Yep, so sad. You can come see my house with my pets roaming around and my jars on display. Really, it's not that much more exciting than a mains house, so it's not worth it. But anyways, yeah, that's pretty much it. It's kind of chipping away at a bunch of different goals. What about you? What have you been up to?
I think I mentioned last week I was getting kind of, a little bored of the game. It was a little bit of a lull for me. But then after seeing, the Raids 3 announcement especially, oh man, I got so excited. And I was like, I gotta get ready. I gotta get my account, loaded up so I can actually go raid when it gets released. Who knows when it's gonna come out? They haven't announced it yet. My feeling is in January, which is at first I was a little bit like, no, you can't do this. I'm gonna have a newborn in January. That's gonna be difficult. I as much as I'd love to go to the lady and be like, can you just hold it in for a few more weeks so I can try raiding? I don't know if it works that way. But I had some people, and I mentioned that in the clan chat, I had some people reach out being like, you know what? The first few weeks of a newborn is amazing because they tend to sleep a lot. So it's actually perfect timing.
Okay, we'll have to do it. Yeah.
Well, I gotta get a raid. No, but it did get me super excited to kind of, get almost raid ready, and it kind of reinvigorated my excitement for the game. So, I've just got plans to just get all set up. I've been doing a bunch of Wildy Slayer so I can collect a bunch of points for no reason in particular. Well, a few reasons to get my Slayer helmets ready, and it allowed me to unlock the ability to hold tasks. I think we mentioned it last episode.
Yeah.
So if I ever get a boss task that I want to do but don't want to do right away, I can slap it I can hold it for 50 points. I like to have that option to do it. So I've been doing a lot of Wildy Slayer to build it up, and it's okay. It's not bad. It's fast. It's a lot for almost every, when you're a high level, especially like a main account, and you're doing Wildy Slayer, almost every mob you get, there's a way so that you can just blast through the kill count with a cannon or something.
Yeah, a cannon for sure.
Yeah. So, they have the Slayer dungeon in the wilderness. They have just a bunch of different spots that you can just blast through kills. So I've been doing that.
Fairly quiet there when you're doing your stuff?
Yeah, I've done...
Like, do you run into people or no?
So this weekend, I must have done like 20 tasks. I don't think I've seen anybody.
See, I felt that way. Like, I just feel like that way about the wilderness in general. Like, there really isn't many people. I got all my mossy keys there, my Obor keys. I just didn't see a single person.
Yeah, same.
And most of the PKers you run into are like not very good for the most part.
Heartless, you just got the squirrel pet.
What's that?
You just got the squirrel pet.
What do you mean?
Look in your in-game in-game chat box.
Oh my god. That's my second one.
We're sitting here recording, we're both AFKing agility, and I'm just seeing all these people saying grats. I'm just like, what is it? I look up and I see Heartless B has a funny feeling like she would have been followed by the giant squirrel.
Oh no. Well, there we go. Funny. For all those people that are dry on the agility pet, I now have 2 squirrels.
That's hilarious. That's 2. What level's your agility?
I think 86 or 87.
Oh my god.
I got the first one very early in like the 60s. while at
so
Sears Village. That's
nice.
That's actually hilarious.
A live commentary. That's so funny.
Well, there we go. Another one for the log, boys.
Yeah, there it is. So, anyways, what I wanted to ask you is, do you play a lot of mobile, like mobile OSRS?
Mobile, yeah, I play a fair bit, but usually like when I'm lying in bed and my girlfriend's asleep and I'm watching TV and I'm just like cutting logs or something. Nothing serious, just AFK skills.
Do you ever do any bossing on your phone?
I've done Theater of Blood on my phone. Yeah, it's tough, but.
Do you have any like go-to bosses for when you're playing on mobile?
That's a good question. I never really thought about it because that's not something that I'm really into.
Yeah. Okay.
I just find it's easier to bring. It's hard to like switch ends. Nothing that you want to be switching prayers a lot because it's really hard to do both at the same time because they're like two separate tabs. So you have to click a whole bunch, and my fingers aren't very accurate on the phone. So I would think something where you wouldn't have to click too much. At least on your prayers, we could just kind of like camp one prayer. So I wouldn't want to be doing like Gauntlet or anything like that. Definitely wouldn't want to be doing Theater of Blood. I don't know, dude. It's tough to say. I've done a bunch of barrows, I guess, is the only thing.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, because like the reason I'm asking is because mainly on the weekends, but me and the missus will be like watching TV in bed, and I'll pull out the phone and do some escaping on my phone. I've been trying to like figure out what bosses like. So it's mostly I want to do some sort of bossing on my phone because you can make some decent money, and that's mainly it. I need to get some money going. Now with Raids 3 on the horizon, I'm like I really want to get kitted out. I want to get. I want to get what I need. If I can get the Inferno by the time Raids 3 comes out, maybe that might be my goal. We'll have to see. But that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I need a push to finally get a few more pieces. I want to get full Ancestral, and then and get the code I want, and then I think I want to start pushing for the Inferno. Will that happen? I'm not too sure. That might change. I'm pretty sure for like the past 3 years, every New Year's, I've been saying I want to get the Inferno cape. I haven't even been in there, so it might all just be talk for now. But currently, my go-to boss is Zulrah because it's kind of AFK. Not AFK, but it's very easy to do when you have a T-bow. It's just the prayers you have to switch.
True. Forgot about Zulrah.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing Zulrah, but I was like, man, I need another boss. So I asked some people in the CC the other day, and they were saying like, someone mentioned do Vorkath. They like to do Vorkath on mobile
with a crossbow. It's probably pretty easy.
Yeah, so I was trying with the lance, and it was doable, but there's a bunch of times that I was like, man, if I was on my computer, I wouldn't have got hit by that, or I would have survived that, or whatever it was. I wouldn't have made these mistakes. Now, if I had the crossbow, it might be a little bit more mobile friendly, so that's something I might save up for. Yeah, okay.
Vorkath's a good call. I've done Zulrah as well. It's been a while since I did that, but when I was grinding Zulrah, like I guess a year ago now, whenever I had time, I would just whip out mobile and do some KC. With switches as well, but I was so used to Zulrah that it was pretty easy. Yeah,
okay. Yeah, and it's once you do it enough, you kind of get the general idea of where to stand to avoid the poison gases.
Yeah, and you like know where Zulrah is going to pop up, which is the big key. So once you have the phases burnt into your memory, you know exactly where we need to be as Zulrah is going down. So there's like lots of time for you to run over there, switch your gear, and switch your prayer. So it's mobile friendly, I would say, once you are comfortable with it.
I feel like maybe like the giant mole would probably be pretty mobile friendly.
Yeah, that's true. I did 50 KC of giant mole on mobile as well. Yeah, that's
not the best money, but it's I guess not the worst money either.
It's pretty good actually. You'd be surprised. I think it's a few mil per hour.
Oh, yeah,
it's not bad at all. Or maybe like it's decent money for sure.
I guess the thing is there's no massive drops. It's pretty consistent with the mole skins that drop from it.
I'd say it's at least a mil per hour. I'm just like speculating, but it's very consistent money. And then you've got a decent little pet chance as well.
Yeah, which is always fun. And then I guess KBD would probably be a good mobile boss, but you're not going to make too much money there. Dagonoths I want to try. And I think the big issue with the Dagonoth Kings is that you don't have a timer telling you when the next boss is going to pop. Anyways, that's something I got to try as well. So anyways, I guess I'll put the question out there. Anyone who does mobile bossing, what are your go-to bosses on mobile? Because obviously there's some that'll be more ideal than others.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, anywho, that's I guess that's the week there in a nutshell. Not a whole lot going on, but I'm sure as the weeks progress, we got some more stuff that'll be pumping out. Anywho, we have a lot to talk about. So what do you say we dive into the news this week?
Let's do it.
Okay, so of course, first things first, we have to go do a more in-depth recap of the Summer Summit.
Yeah, so what should we start with?
So I guess we can just go in order. And you know, for whenever we did the Runefest episodes, I would always take clips of the announcements and play it, let the JMods kind of explain it themselves. So we don't got Runefest, and we haven't had it for the past like year or so. But this came in its place. So I think we should take the same approach. All right. So of course, the first thing we're going to be talking about is Dead Man mode. So I'll play the announcement clip here, but just for anyone who's listened to it, it's about 7 minutes long. You can skip past it if you've already heard it and you don't want to rehear it. But if you haven't, they do a pretty good job of answering some questions and give you a quick rundown of what it actually is.
Did somebody say Dead Man?
Look at the loot on the floor. That is everybody's dream.
Oh my goodness, it's gone! Oh, he did!
It's one of the most competitive tournaments so far.
I imagine that at the moment it's a lot of panic.
Can he get the hit in just before he dies?
Their names are going to go down in history. Not used to it. Something that they don't normally experience in the normal game.
It looks like it's the moment we've all been waiting for.
He's still got a chance to win it.
Oh, the free KO!
So there it is, folks. Dead Man is coming back to old school RuneScape. Now, we know that you wanted us to spice up the experience from the last time Dead Man came about, and boy have we made some changes in Dead Man Reborn. So let's go and have a look at what those exactly are. Husky, talk through the players through one of the first changes.
Thanks, Aiza. The most prominent feature that's coming to Dead Man this time round is a 3-life system. Now, that's exactly as it sounds. When you spawn into the game, you will have 3 lives. Don't worry for the first 2 though. They will act exactly like a previous Dead Man mode death. You will lose the items which you are not protecting. They go to the other PKer along with a bank key containing the top 10 most valuable items from your bank. On your final death though, that's where things get interesting. You will lose all of your combat experience and 10% of your skilling experience. Don't worry, you keep your questing your quest progress. That's pretty important. But yeah, straight back to the start again. And when we thought about what Dead Man was for this year round, it was that high risk, high reward gameplay, really forcing players into this environment where they have to compete with each other to come out on top.
So you may be thinking, 3 lives, losing all of your combat experience is going to be absolute hell when a max level player charges towards you. Now, we thought about that as well, so we are going to make another change with Dead Man Reborn, which is the introduction of combat level brackets. Now, these combat level brackets will essentially act as a barrier to prevent higher level players from being able to essentially stomp the lower levels. You'll be restricted to replaying on certain worlds that only certain combat levels can actually access. The first bracket will be combat level 3 to 35, and then it will go up to 36 to 70. Then we'll have 71 to 100, and then finally the last bracket will be combat levels 101 to 126. So you at least can have that knowledge that you're going to go out in some relative safety, that you're not going to go against someone who's a vastly higher combat level than you. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that everyone is going to be playing on the same, power level, because if you know RuneScape, then you know people like to min-max. And we imagine there's going to be a few players out there that are going to make the most powerful build possible with the pure intention of taking away all of your lives. So make sure you take that into account, play around it, and make it part of your strategy as well.
But that's not all that's exciting coming to Dead Man Reborn. I mean, you're already thinking, I've got these lives to worry about, and now I've got these optimized people who are coming to hunt me down. This just sounds like it's going to be no fun at all, right? Well, that's where you're wrong. Because taking heavy inspiration from leagues, we're going to be introducing Dead Man sigils. These are going to fundamentally change up your gameplay experience, just like relics did, and they're going to come in 3 tiers. They're going to affect combat, skilling, and utility. You can have 3 of these active at any moment in time, and you can swap them out whenever you want in a safe zone. This is going to save you feeling like the sigils that you got mean you're stuck to that build for the entire tournament, and they'll also allow you to try out all of the fun effects that we end up making for you. They can only be transferred through the Grand Exchange, and the best part is you get your first sigil to choose from as soon as you jump into the game mode.
So with previous Deadmans, there's always been a little bit of a gulf between solo players and those that are more interested in playing together as a team. Now, we don't want to remove the teaming element from Deadman because it does make up a huge part of what makes the game mode so great, but we are looking to make some changes that will help improve the solo player experience, but also make it a little bit riskier for everyone involved. So the first major change that we're making is actually removing single way combat and replacing it with single plus combat, which means that if you are in combat with an NPC, any other player can attack you at any moment in time. You won't be able to go ahead and box with any NPCs anymore. You'll always be favored in terms of PvP combat. So you have to keep that in mind. Everywhere that you enter is going to be dangerous unless you're in a safe zone. Now, in addition to that, one of the things that we will also be doing is changing some prominent multi-way areas into single plus. And this is mostly going to be helping those players that are looking to get certain quests completed without automatic quest completions. And then finally, the other change that we're making is preventing players from being able to be speared from single-way combat into multi-way combat. We want to make sure that the choice to be in multi-combat is dictated by the player themselves rather than essentially an army of spears.
So, with all of these exciting content changes in mind, the only question I have left is, what is Deadman without a finale? In previous iterations, we've seen groups of players form alliances for the final hour, whittling down the opposition until only 256 players remain, and at that point they are moved into the 1v1 section of the tournament. This time around, we're scrapping all of that entirely. Instead, we're going to take the top 2,048 players and put them straight into the 1v1 section of the tournament. This will be determined by total level, so those skilling sigils might be more useful than you think.
So never mind Deadman without a finale, what's a finale without a prize pool? Now this Deadman, we're going to have a very generous $32,000 on offer, with first place taking a grand total of $20,000. So maybe you do want to take this one a little bit more seriously than before and make sure your strategies are completely nailed down. So how about we get the blog live for Deadman, roll the VT, and in the meantime, I'm going to get myself a bank key.
Wait, you said this was a safe zone.
So Deadman mode has returned.
Yeah, Deadman mode reborn is here. So this is, they called it the survival game mode for old school RuneScape. You can basically die anywhere. If you PK someone, you kill someone, you get a bank key that you can then turn in and receive. I think it's their 10 most valuable pieces of loot. You know, they've changed it a bunch of times over the years, but the general idea is if you die, you lose your bank. So the big change I found, and at first I was a little bit iffy, but the more I thought about it, I think I kind of like it. I guess it all depends. So this is going to have a 3 live system, as they mentioned. And when you lose all 3 of your lives, you will lose all of your combat experience. And you go back to level 3. So that's a big one. But so yeah, hearing that, and I'm like, man, that sucks. You know, a big problem with Deadman mode in the past is that when you got PK'd by a higher level and you lost all the best gear, you got starting from scratch really sucks. You're just kind of like, well, great, I got to go grind out whatever it is all over again. Like, it's just very tedious, and you're almost at like a disadvantage. So the person who kills you is stronger. You died. You're much weaker than you were before, which means that person can then just continue killing you if they wanted to. That being said, they are going to be breaking this up into different combat brackets. So, you know, they mentioned it, but it will be levels 3 to 35 will be in one world. Level 36 to 70 will be in another world. 71 to 100 in a world, and 101 to 126.
Yeah, I like this change. It's good.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it allows, like, if clans get into fights and, you know, you might break up clans. Clans might be stuck in different worlds, so you can't always get help like a bigger clan can't call on all their friends all of a sudden. I'm sure, they might have some people in the same world which will allow them to kind of call in for some help, but still, you don't have to worry that you're a level 20 and a level 100 is going to come up and just destroy you, which a few times in the past that was able to happen. And
I'd imagine this system, because it's so punishing when you die, is going to incentivize people to have, like, especially hardcore Deadman mode players, to have multiple accounts, so that they're either training one on the side in case one dies and they can transfer all their stuff over to it.
Like, I didn't even think of that, but a big problem in the past was a lot of people used mules. So you'd have your main account, you'd have a level 3, you'd put all your stuff in the level 3, because there are some areas that are safe, like the Varrock banks and stuff. So you can keep your guy there, you can transfer all your items to them, and then this way, when your main dies, you don't really lose a whole bunch of stuff. I think the tricky part is now you could still do that, but also, if you die and now you're level 3 again and your mule is level 100, it's going to really split things up. So that's a really cool idea.
I think that's going to make it harder for solo players, the muling, but for clans, they're going to have multiple mules on each level. So they'll just be able to transfer the items down so that they could get them back to their player that has just died, for example. So I think for like big clans, it's not going to be a big deal because they're going to have so many extra mule accounts that are like different combat brackets, so they can just trade and swap.
Yeah, that's
like they'll have one that's like level whatever, it's just on the cusp, and then they'll just train it up. They'll be able to jump up a bracket and take the things or whatever. Actually, no, I don't think that's going to work because you can't actually go down the echelons.
Yeah, once you go up, you might have to keep like a level, 3 to 35, and you might have a 35 mule that maybe has a bunch of green D-hide to transfer over.
Yeah. So you have a bunch of like mules at specific account stages so that you could get geared up. Yeah, I think that's a good call.
So people could do that. That's a lot of work though.
But for like a solo player, you're not going to have like access to 4 or 5 accounts.
No,
that's really only going to be for clans. So as a solo player, it's going to be pretty punishing when you die. But hopefully they mentioned it's going to be a lot faster to actually level up. And there's also going to be relics like leagues in it, which we haven't even talked about yet. But that's another whole other level of madness. Yeah.
So they are increasing the experience rates. I'm not sure what they did in the past. Maybe it was like ×5 experience rates. But the way they're doing it is each bracket is going to have a different speed of experience gain. And the lower bracket you are, the less experience gain you're going to be getting. And to me, it makes sense because you're going to be you fly through the levels early on. It's later on when things slow down. But if the experience multiplier increases as you level up, it will help you keep a relatively quick speed once you hit like level 70. Because there's always a block on Deadman mode. When you hit like level 70, you had the experience rate speed, but you just stopped pumping out levels like you did early on, which makes sense. So it'll be 10 times in the first bracket. So 10 times until you're 35. And then from 36 to 70, you'll have 15 times. Up to 100 will be 20 times. And then 101 to 126 will be 25 times the combat experience speed. And then that being said, experience rates for all skills will be 10 times as well. And I believe they talked about when you die that you would lose like half experience in your skilling experience. Sorry, 10% of all skilling experience is lost when you die. So not as much. Now, in past Deadman modes, you were always able to pick 3 skills, I believe it was, that would never lose experience when you died. So you could choose, people choose like thieving because it's an easy money maker. People would choose.
Could you choose combat skills as well?
I think you could choose. I think it was 3 skilling and 2 combats, something like that. So people would choose like Slayer and thieving and maybe agility, and then people chose range and health or You could always switch them too. There's a way to switch it so that like, early on it might be beneficial to train to keep your defense higher than your range because maybe you don't plan on PKing until you're a higher level. Anyways, there's different ways you could do it.
Yeah, the other big change I was going to say is they're making everything singles plus, which means you can't box minions anymore.
Yeah,
so this is going to be a really good trial run of what the Wilderness might become.
Yeah, there's still going to be multi-combat areas, but they have converted some of the multi-combat to singles plus, and all singles areas will be singles plus.
Yeah, so people will always be able to pick you off. So there's no more safe, like in the catacombs, like Neve's catacombs, for example, where people like to do safe Slayer because they're in single way combat. Now people are going to be able to pick you off. So you're going to have to be quick on your teleports, which is scary. And I guess you're just going to have to always be prepared for fights in singles areas. That's what's going to come down to.
Yeah, always have it. I remember playing in the past, and people would say always have like an escape route planned out, and like this would mean maybe bringing like a mind talisman, because if you're going to be training near the mind altar or the air altar, wherever you were training, an altar was usually a good spot. A rune crafting altar was usually a good spot to get away from people. I remember that being one of the kind of the pro tips for this.
Yeah, absolutely. What else is there? Trying to think. Oh, singles plus also comes with a PJ timer, which is really good for solo play. This is like really good for solo players, singles plus, because the problem in old singles is when there's no PJ timer, like player jacking, basically means that if you're in combat with one person, they can then off you and another person can come in. So what happens is a clan will ice barrage you, and then the guy dumps his claws into you, and then he'll off you. And then as soon as the timer deactivates, you're no longer in combat with that person. Someone else will come in and claw you. So you're just going to get specced out by someone.
Yeah.
And it sucks for solo players. But now there's a PJ timer, which means they can't do that to you without giving you a window to, I don't know, fight back, teleport, do whatever.
Yeah, totally.
You're basically not going to be able to get clawed out by multiple people in a row. You'll have plenty of time to eat or whatever to get out of it. So yeah, I think that's overall a good change. The other thing is you cannot get either Zami Speared or more typically Dragon Speared into multi from single way. It won't be possible.
Cool.
Which, if you watch PKing clips, is a common way. PKing clans like Rot and whatever, well, like you'll be fighting a guy and he's like kind of faking you out, and he'll bring you sort of to the edge, and you think you're going to kill him, and then he'll pull out the dragon spear, and he'll spear you into multi, and then the team logs in with ancient maces or claws or whatever, and they just spec you out and smite you. So, but in Deadman mode, it's obviously much more devastating because you're going to lose everything, including a percentage of your bank.
Yeah, and now, if it's your third life, back down to level 3. Yes, that's massive. There's a few times I've been PKing or maybe doing something in the wilderness, and like you're going and a guy comes up to PK you, and you're like, okay, whatever. Maybe you're fighting back, trying to like hopefully anti-PK, and then they pull out the dragon spear, and you're like, fuck. And then 20 people log in. As soon as someone pulls,
no one is doing anything about like anything safe with a dragon spear. You always know you're in big trouble when that thing gets pulled out.
Yeah, crap.
Oh yeah, that's a little suspicious. Yeah. Especially Chaos Altar. There's a bunch of places
Chaos
where specifically people like to log in and pile you. So Chaos Altar, Rev Caves near the Rogues Cast or near the Bandits Camp. There's a bunch of places.
Oh yeah. So that will not be happening. But in terms of drop rates, they are increasing the drop rates on basically every boss and every end game, every monster that might drop unique. So, like Basilisk, what are they called? Basilisk Knights, I think they were called. Dark Beasts, all the bosses. They're all going to have 3 times the normal drop rate. So that's pretty neat. And every monster is going to be dropping what they're calling, like, I guess, a dead man mode table. So before, this was only specifically for certain bosses, but now you'll be able to get some of the, what do they call it, the ancient warrior weapons. So that's like oh my god, I can't was it
sorry, Vesta's longsword, Daddy's warhammer, Morgan's javelins.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a whole bunch of
those the really broken weapon. You basically, once you're in that 101 to 126, you're going to need a Vesta's longsword to compete. That thing like hits 45s, 50s through prayer. Yeah. And it only takes 25% spec. It's a ridiculous weapon.
And you can get them in Last Man Standing as well. There's a few times you get them and you're like, oh, sweet. They're pretty strong. But they're you're not unstoppable if you've got one. But they are very, very
No, you're
strong.
not. But to be like, basically anyone who's in the final is going to have a Vesta's longsword.
Yeah, especially we're going to get into it, but there's like 11 fights you'll have to do to get to the final, the 1v1s, the final 2. And at that point, you will definitely have some.
I wonder if anyone is going to get an Ellie again. Last time there was a guy who had an Ellie. And for those of you who don't know, the Ellie is absolutely disgusting in a 1v1 fight. Possibly its actual best use in the game. Because usually skilled 1v1 tribrid or range tank fights come down to attrition, as long as you don't get like RNG specced out. And the Ellie just adds like an extra 30%, like 17.5% or whatever its average is, health to your entire pool, which means you have an automatic advantage over your opponent.
That's nuts.
So if you're just a range tank and you have an offhand of the Ellie and you're just pumping range into them, and with your VLS as like your secondary weapon, like it's very hard unless you're an incredibly skilled tribrider to beat that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That was crazy. I couldn't believe that someone got it last time on Deadman mode with regular drop rates.
Yeah, nuts. It does sound pretty nutty. Well,
there's also the relics too, which are going to like basically warp the game.
Yeah, so they're going to be a part of the what they call the Dead Man only drop table. So on this drop table, you have the Ancient Warriors equipment we just mentioned, the sigils that we're going to be. Is it sigils or sigils? I need to know. I'm going to get blamed. Sigils. Okay, God,
sigil.
God
like,
damn it.
Like Elysian sigil, Arcane sigil. Yeah, it's a sigil.
I hate this game.
Not sigil.
Shutting down the podcast. You'll also be getting food, potions, herbal supplies, and emblems as well. So before this was specifically on certain bosses, but now it'll be on every NPC. So you could kill a level 2 man and you could get a VLS if you were lucky enough. Of course, the wilderness bosses will still have the best drop rates for all that stuff. So let's move on to the sigils or the sigils. Tomato, right?
You're killing me. No, it's definitely sigil.
Is it? Hold on, I gotta bring this to Google.
Are you gonna get Google to play the sound on the podcast?
I'm trying to find where is it? Usually you can just click a thing and it says it.
Talking to the elementary school teacher here, it's pretty much my job to learn how to pronounce words properly and correct people.
You could be teaching them incorrectly, right?
I guess so, but I also don't really teach them the word sigil.
Imagine.
So. It's not something that really comes up in my life.
Okay, kids, we're going to learn the word niche.
In fact, I don't think I've ever used the word sigil outside of RuneScape.
What is a sigil? A sigil is a type of symbol used in magic.
Like a
symbol. Usually referred to a deity or a spirit.
Okay, so yeah, symbol. But a very specific kind of symbol.
For magic.
I very rarely even use the word symbol, so.
True.
Anyways, there we go. We've solved the mystery.
I don't think we have, because Google's not even helping us. Anyways, it doesn't matter.
You gotta trust me. It's sigil. Trust the people that are yelling at you right now from inside their headphones or whatever they're listening to you.
I'm sorry, guys. Sorry.
Damn it, Dills.
Anywho, the sigils. I like the word relic better. Anywho, it's much more easier to pronounce. So there are going to be a bunch of different sigils that you can collect that will give you a assortment of different buffs that will help like beef up your gameplay. But the difference is with relics used in leagues, they were permanent choices, and people would choose certain relics and they sometimes regretted it. You couldn't do anything about it. You couldn't change it.
You didn't pick last recall. Suck.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a little bit different. These won't be permanent choices, and you will obtain them through drops. But when you attune to it, they will become untradeable as well. And the only way to sell or buy sigils is through the Grand Exchange, which I love.
It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, clans can't funnel it all to one player. They have, you actually have to go on the GE and purchase it yourself. You could funnel them money, so whatever.
Yeah, but you could sell the sigil and then give the money and then they'll buy the sigil. So yes, it's technically good, but for the really rare, I don't even know what the sigils do, but for the rare ones, it's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
Also, you can just get them from any monster, which I think is so sick. I didn't like when it was only ancient weapons from wilderness content only. I loved when it was from everything.
Mm-hmm.
You just like killing Bloodvelds and you get a Statius Warhammer. You're like, oh, it's just exciting. It's like what rare drop table should be.
Yeah.
Genuinely exciting. Not like, oh, yeah, I got an uncut Dragonstone from General Grador. I love that.
Yeah.
That's always what I wanted to see.
You get the legendary dragon medium helmet.
it's 1 in 10,000. Oh, that's great. Doesn't exactly make you excited, but yeah, this is a cool part of Deadman mode. So.
Yeah, so you'll be able to
Love
have
this change.
3 sigils attuned at any given time, and you can swap these out as well. And they've teased what 3 examples of the sigils might be. So the first one they call is, and these are all going to be varying of tiers as well.
Yeah, some of them are gonna have like very minor effects, and some of them are gonna have extremely powerful effects.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to see which combination of them together is gonna be good. And I don't even know what they are. Have they even released the sigils yet?
Hold on, let me see.
I imagine some that are going to be like more defensive. There's some that are going to be like, I don't know, maybe make your freezes last multiple seconds longer.
Yeah, like they give an example here of a picture showing somebody who has equipped 3 different sigils. There will be tiers 1, 2, and 3. So of course, the higher tier, the better it is. And there'll be different types of sigils you can get. So they have utility, combat, and skilling. And I don't think it says it here, but I believe you could only choose one of each.
That's cool. I like that. Or else you'd just be juiced up on offensive.
Yeah. Now, I could be wrong. And of course, this may be subject to change. I'm sure we'll get one final iteration of the Deadman mode, but this will be coming out in the next couple weeks. But here are the 3 examples they give. So they have the Sigil of Stamina. They have it's a utility, tier 1, and it says you are permanently under the effects of a stamina potion. How bad would you kill me if I pronounced it Stanima?
I'd leave right now. I'd delete my recording.
The Sigil of Stanima.
No, stop it, Dills. Get out of here.
Okay, slot 2, Sigil of the Formidable. The Formidable Fighter. This is a combat sigil, tier 1. Your melee accuracy is increased by plus 10 in stab, slash, and crush. I wish I knew the numbers enough to know how good that is, but it is only tier 1, so it seems a little weaker than the stamina sigil. And the final one is Sigil of the Elves. This is a skilling type, tier 2, and it says you gain 50% more experience in the following skills: agility, and then it cuts off. It doesn't let you see the rest.
I see. Yeah, I like that. These are great little things that I think is going to spice up the game.
Yeah, it's a cool way of doing it. I love that they took what works in leagues and trying it out in Deadman mode, and I'm totally down for them to kind of try new ideas every single time, similarly to what they're doing with leagues, which we're going to get in very shortly. So finally, of course, every Deadman mode final ends in a finale. They call it a final hour, but it's never a final hour. It's like a final 6 hours sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And normally it was a big battle royale. They tried a few different things, but eventually they ended up being battle royale until there's 1,000 players left or 200 players left, and they all got ported to an arena, and it became a 1v1 until there's one person left. Now they're changing it. The finale is going to be a fully 1v1 tournament. So there will be a total of 2,048 contestants into the finale, which the big thing that stands out for me is they're going to have to figure out a way to increase world sizes to allow more than 2,000 players, which I'm sure we'll have some sort of bug that'll leak into the game, but I'm all for it. And the prize pool they're giving away is first place will get 20 grand, second place will get 10 grand, third and fourth place will get $1,000 each, and 5th to 16th place will get 1 year of membership.
Nice. The big part of this is that the problem with the multi finale is like, yeah, it's cool for, viewers, but if you're not in a large clan that is well organized, or if you just get a little bit unlucky with the final area, you can really get screwed and just get instantly killed.
Yeah.
So what people would do is, even though I remember Solo Mission, who's is a fantastic YouTuber, by the way, he's British,
mm-hmm.
and he does a lot of PvP content as well as like Iron Man and all sorts of stuff. He didn't even wear his best gear. He's part of Blazers, which is I would say a PvP clan mostly. Okay. But they kitted him out with all their best gear, like prims, bandos, arma. He didn't wear any of it. He wore like dragon boots, and he wanted to look like a bit of a noob so he could fly under the radar.
True.
so that he wouldn't get picked off. And people would change their names to like highly unpronounceable things so that you couldn't get called out when you were doing barrages, which is why people would always have ridiculous names.
Right.
So now people can just, I mean, they'll probably use ridiculous names still so that they're not targeted. But anyways,
Yeah.
I think that's the main reason they didn't want like highly skilled players or players to be punished by bad RNG or getting targeted or just being unlucky in a multi-phase when really it should just come down to skill. So if you work hard, even as a solo player, they want it to be a good experience. Clanman mode is often the joke, and the clans always are going to have the advantage in something like this, but at least the gap has closed a little bit.
Yeah, you have a, it's doable. Now, I think you're on it to a good point. I think another big part of it as well is that, like, as a viewer, when it always came down to the final areas, it was just people chinning and barraging, and it's like impossible. As someone who doesn't play RuneScape, you're going to be like, okay, what the frick is going on here? I'm just seeing chaos. People running around, people throwing chins and barraging. I can't even tell what's going on. Now, so I think it's hard to like cast it as like a shoutcaster, and I think as a viewer, it wasn't the best to watch. The only thing I'm going to miss is they had a heat map that they would have during the finale, and the heat map would show you where, on the world of Gielinor, where a lot of people were kind of all in one spot. So basically you could see where clans were marching around together, and they would show this heat map, and you would see these big groups of players would slowly kind of bump into each other at some point, and a quick little battle, a quick skirmish would happen. And then it usually broke off. It was never to the levels that I hoped it was, where, maybe these two people are just moving around the map. They get sandwiched between two other clans that end up taking out a big clan. That's what they hoped for. And as a viewer, that's what I had hoped for. But it became a lot of people just standing around eventually. And oh man, maybe when the finale happens, we can do a Dead Man special where we go and talk about, go down memory lane about every issue that ever occurred during a Dead Man finale, because every single finale something went wrong. Remember the whole Wooks 1?
Wooks 1, that one was hilarious when Wooks basically just stood outside eating the fog, or like out eating the fog with like stacks of tuna. And he was unloading the tuna at Files, the guy outside the house. So when everyone had died, he was just eating the entire time.
Yeah.
Classic Wooks.
Or remember when they had the fog tuned up too much, so it did so much damage that you get caught in the fog and you like got one hit KO'd?
Oh yeah, insta-banged everyone. That was pretty bad too.
There's so many. Every time they had it so that in order to get to the final area for the fight where there's no fog, you had to go through a tunnel. There's a clan camping at the other side of the tunnel that just literally killed anyone who went through the tunnel opening.
That was in Shiloh Village in order to like get, I can't remember what it was. It was crazy.
It's really, anyway, it's really funny. So maybe we'll have to do a recap down when we get closer to the finale date. But yeah, so there's Dead Man mode. Straight 1v1s for the entire finale. It's happening. And I believe, what date did they say it's going to start? It is starting.
I'm not 100% sure. It's soon though. It's definitely in August, near the end of August.
Stills from the future here. It's actually starting August 20th, 2021. Yeah, so anyways, that's something you're interested in trying. Maybe check it out. We'll have a channel for anyone who wants to try it out as well. And I usually try it the first week or the first couple of days, so I'm definitely going to try it as well. The thing is, like, you usually after the first day or 2 or 3 days, the gap between the strong players and the weak players is so large that it's like doesn't feel worth it for a casual player. Maybe this time's different. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I think with the tiered worlds, it might be a little bit more casual friendly.
Yeah, so it should be cool. Anyways, I'm all for it. I'm looking forward to this. Okay, and now on to the next update announced. This is, of course, you guys know it. It's Group Iron Man, Group Iron Woman, Group Iron Players. This is the Group Iron mode. So we're going to play the announcement clip. It is roughly 5 minutes, so feel free to skip it if it's not something you want to re-listen to. But if not, let's hear what the J-Mods have to say about this announcement.
Hiya. I'm very pleased to get to talk to you all at last about Group Iron Man. It's been such a long time since we were on that Runefest stage, or when we could have Runefests, where we talked about the major infrastructure work that was going to be needed to make old school RuneScape handle permanent groups in the way that RS3 does. Now, it wasn't a straight backport either. We needed you to be able to join a group not just for clans, but for Group Iron Man as well, so that you could be in your clan and your group without them interfering with each other, so that you can keep playing the game the way you want to play it. So that, of course, took more time. We hope it's going to be worth it in the long run. Anyway, you can see the progress in the form of the clan system live in old school RuneScape, and now that that's stable, we're delighted to be able to build on it to form the Group Iron Man groups that you've been waiting for so long. So let's go through the basics. Firstly, groups will be between 2 and 5 players. You'll be able to fight monsters together, share your tradable resources with each other, maybe visit each other's player-owned houses. Now, building on that, we're hoping that along with letting Group Iron players go to each other's houses, like non-Irons do, we'd like to be able to let existing Iron accounts have guests in their player-owned houses too. And we should be able to build that into the same work we're doing for Group Iron Man, so that'll be a little benefit for the rest of the game as well. Now, that brings us to high scores. We know that competition is a big part of gaming for many people. Not everyone, sure, but a lot of people. So Group Iron Man is due to have high scores that will let you show which is the greatest group of them all, which group is superior to all the other Iron buddies out there. Now, that of course means that we need you all to be starting afresh on an even playing field, rather than having existing high-end accounts buddying up as a Group Iron Man group in the first place. Otherwise the high scores would just be full of existing high-end accounts. So we're going to need you to all start afresh from that. Now, here's Magdalena to tell us about how the groups will be formed.
Thank you, Ash. Let's talk about your journey as a Group Iron Man. We all know Tutorial Island. Before leaving Tutorial Island, you would get a new option to start as a Group Iron Man by going to the node. On screen, we're displaying one version of the node. Keep in mind this is just a concept and the final design is not finalized yet. It may change before launch. The node is a new area only accessible to Group Iron Man. On the node, you'll meet the Group Iron Man tutor. The Group Iron Man tutor is similar to the existing Iron Man tutors and would provide you with a brand new armor only for Group Iron Man and completely free. The reason we're making a new area for Group Iron Man is so that it's easy to group together. If you're only surrounded by other Group Iron Man, you know that every other person is a potential teammate. Additionally, on Tutorial Island, there's a restriction where you can't actually chat to other players. We're removing that for the node so you can actually talk to people before grouping with them. Some people have already decided on their Group Iron Man, which I think is great. Some people are really prepared. Others, don't worry if you haven't decided on your group yet. We will have official group finding worlds to make it easier for you to find others. And if you go to the node and you end up not having chosen a group yet, or you can't find anyone, don't worry. You'll be able to re-choose your game mode upon leaving. So if you want to be a main account instead, or a regular Iron, you can do that. Another reason to have a brand new place for Group Iron Man is so that existing groups can invite more people. Let's say a player in your group leaves. You shouldn't doom everyone else in the group just because one person ruins the fun for everyone. What you can do is pop over to the node, invite a new person to the group. So like Ash mentioned, only existing players can fill in the gap in a group. This is to protect the integrity of the game mode, so that no groups get an unfair advantage. A group that has never had any other members and kept to the original group that it was when it was made on the node, that should be recognized. We're introducing something called Prestige Status, where you lose the status if you invite a new member to the group, but we want to recognize those original groups as they were. And we hope to be able to present these on the high scores, so that you can show the whole world that you truly stand alone together.
Thanks for watching. Now, back to the studio.
All right, so Group Iron Man mode, which looks like to be releasing, what do they say, early to mid autumn or early to mid fall. So I'm feeling like an October release date on this one, maybe.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's Iron Man mode or Iron Woman mode, but instead of playing by yourself, you can play with up to 5 other players. You'll have to make a fresh account, as they mentioned, and there's going to be a new addition to the tutorial island called the Node, where you will be able to form your group Iron Man, where your group Iron groups. There'll be a
get it together,
Dills. We're getting there. We're only halfway. Are we halfway through? We're about halfway through, and this isn't even the big one yet. Each group will be able to have their own separate high scores, so you don't have to worry about Iron players being grouped in with group Iron players. They'll have their own separate high scores for that. They'll have a shared bank that they can use together, and Irons, a part of a group, will be able to separate. Well, they want them to be able to separate, and they want you to be able to bring in new people into the group if they're a fresh account. So a lot of these, they use a lot of quote like, we want to, or we're working to do X. So of course things are probably going to be subject to change depending on the game engine itself once we get closer to that. That's basically the Group Iron in a nutshell. A few other notes is they want to have people love to show off a little symbol. So Iron accounts get a gray helmet, Ultimate Irons with a white, and Hardcores with a red. Group Irons will have a whole new symbol next to their name, and there will be a separate symbol that's basically a prestige status that shows that you're the original group. Nothing has ever changed. Nobody has left. Nobody has joined it. Sorry, you only lose it if if a new player joins your group. So people could leave, but you'll keep your prestige status, which in a way it's like almost like a hardcore status, but on a social level. If your friend quits,
hardcore social status.
Yeah. If you want to replace a friend, then you lose that prestige status. If you do, let's say you get to like 126 and you want to separate and just be a regular Iron account, you will lose all of your tradables, but you will keep your untradeable items.
And you won't become a regular Iron Man either. You'll be a solo group Iron Man.
Oh,
so you won't get the gray. You won't get the gray helmet. No, they're separate modes. Because one of the issues would be like joining a group Iron Man mode, getting boosted through all their supplies, and then just becoming a regular Iron. Like that would just kind of devalue the entire game mode. Imagine you joined a group that has like super late game, and you pay like 100 mil to like access their extra dragon bones and stuff, so that you can get like 75 prayer, and then you just de-iron or just leave the group. So you can leave the group and become a normal account, and you can also leave the group and become a Lone Ranger, I believe, meaning that you are, open to apply to other group Iron Man groups, but you lose all of your tradable items, and you only keep the stuff like your fire capes, infernal capes, stuff like that. Okay.
Now, if you do decide to de-iron, you will have the option of keeping all your tradable items only then. So that's a way of doing it. But yeah, it is important to note that at least they don't plan on, if you were to separate, you won't be able to go forward and form a new group, maybe with new players. Because if you want to join a new group, you will have to be a fresh account for that to be possible.
So everyone starts at level 3. It's going to be some great content, as we suggested. Are you planning on playing it, Dills?
No, I don't see myself playing it. I don't see a huge appeal to it. If I'm being honest, I think it's great that for content creators and for small, the odd group, I think it's good for content creators because it allows like people who are, have a big following to make more content, which helps market the game. If there's a streamer that has a lot of views on Twitch, that helps boost their visibility, which might bring more players and maybe say like, oh, what game is this? And they might become a new RuneScape player. That being said, I have a feeling for the average person, it's going to become like Soul Wars is, or like Duo Slayer, where people were begging for this content. It came out after a week. It really died out.
I think it's going to have some longevity, but it's going to be it's for very specific groups of people. This isn't like an update that it's exciting for everyone.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed when they did announce it at Runefest because, while Deadman mode in leagues is content that not everyone is going to enjoy, it feels like Group Iron. It's like it's not really that different of a game mode except for, I don't know, except for you can play with friends, I guess. So, but I don't know. I think for the average group, it's going to be hard for a group of 5 people to all be on the same commitment level.
It's 3 to 5, yeah.
3 to 5,
But yeah, I agree with you. It's going to be hard to be committing, and one person might feel like they're a little bit ahead. But I don't want to like downplay the how cool this might be for certain groups of people. Like, yeah, it might not be for me and Dills, and it might not be for you, but I think there are going to be a lot of people that get enjoyment out of this. So I don't think there's any point hating on it.
Yeah,
adding more
fair.
game modes, more unique game modes to RuneScape is just a way to keep the game fresh again for people.
And I think
if what excites the group of people, then I'm super happy for them.
And I think that plays into the strength of RuneScape, where it's this game that you can play over and over and over again, and it's fun. It feels fresh every time. So, like you said, for quick correction, it can be from 2 to 5 players. So, maybe you and your significant other or sibling or friend, want to do a group account together. You can go ahead and do that with one other person.
Yeah,
but I think it's going to be like, do you play Stardew Valley at all?
I have, yeah.
They have a multiplayer where you can run a farm with a couple other people.
I've never played since the multiplayer came out, but I've heard it's quite fun.
I've had a few people be like, "Oh, let's you play Stardew, let's make a multiplayer farm." I was never really too interested because I guess I always want to play out my single player farm. But like similarly, I feel like that it's gonna be a very similar vibe where your group of friends, as you would run a Stardew Valley farm, you're now playing your irons together, and it allows you to divvy up tasks. You go, okay, you go and get ready for X monster. I'm gonna go do this boss. You go do this boss, and we'll funnel in items. I'll get Slayer so that I can get the whips for everyone. You go ahead and get, I don't know, Chambers of Xeric ready. Whatever.
This is like a slightly older version of what me and my friends used to do when we were in grade 4 and 5 and we started playing.
Yeah.
There's like 4 or 5 of us, and it's like, okay, you're gonna be the chef. I'm gonna be the fisher. I'm gonna give you the fish, and then Steve over there, he's gonna be chopping logs and making fires for us. And I remember me and my friends meeting out after school just behind Port Sarim, and we just did that. We just chilled and we just had a great time. Just killed a few goblins. Each did our little tasks. This is just like the adult version of that.
100%. I always have this one memory, and I've mentioned it before, but it's like one of my favorite memories of the game. My brother Deegan, I had a friend named Carl and another friend named Sergio, and the 4 of us were all playing. We're at the library. We really wanted to go PKing, and we all kind of like specialized into something. So, I was like the woodcutter. My woodcutting was higher. Deegan was good at, I don't know what Deegan was good at. He was good at something. Sergio was good at fishing, and Carl was good at mining. So we all divvied up tasks, and Carl, he was like level 60 mining. We were like, dude, you're insane. We're all like low levels. So he went ahead and like, you're going to make us armor. Sergio's going to get us food. Me and Deegan are going to figure out something to do. We're going to figure out something. Don't worry, guys. But we had the one guy who kitted us out with like a mithril medium helmet, steel plate body, steel plate legs, a mithril scimitar, mithril square shield. Like we had like that gear going. And then we had like lobsters that we were going to use. And the 4 of us went into the wilderness, and we got destroyed within like 5 minutes.
Hilarious.
We got destroyed.
Yeah, this mode feels like slightly more it feels more casual than regular Iron Man mode, where you have to do everything by yourself. You'll be able to work with your teammates.
Yeah,
some people will push it to the extreme for sure. I think within time we will get stuff popping up like, group Iron Man doing Chambers of Xeric together. It's like, who's gonna get the first deck scroll? Like, who gets to use it? That stuff's gonna be cool to watch, and it'd be exciting to get there as well. But I think it's going to be a slightly more casual game mode that appeals to, specific groups of friends. And it's nice to have in the game after all this time and all this effort put into it. But it's okay because we got what we wanted.
Yeah, yeah. And if you're one that's like, I don't really care about Group Iron Man, well, just know that we got some engine updating because of this whole mode. So we have the clan system because of it, or we have Group Iron Man because of the clan system. One or the other. Point is, our engine is slowly getting updated to a more modernized engine. So, yep, that's going to be coming out early to mid fall. So in a couple months. Yeah, that should be cool. All right, let's move on to announcement number 3. Leagues number 3. Okay, so we're gonna play the announcement here. It is going to be 9 minutes. So if you're into that, take a listen. If you're not, well, we'll talk soon.
Hello everyone, my name is Mod Flippy and this is Mod Oasis, and we're here today to talk about Leagues 3. So it's been about half a year since Trailblazer Worlds closed down, and now it's about that time of the year again where we get to share some exciting news about what we've been working on so far. So we're super excited to share that with you, and of course we're looking forward to once again open the League Worlds later this year. But first, let's take a trip down memory lane. In Twisted League, we introduced the concept behind leagues in general. We gave players a set of tasks to complete, and from these tasks you earn points that you can use to unlock relics, purchase rewards at the end of the league, or compete in high scores. In Trailblazer League, we locked players into 5 different regions of the world. We gave them a new set of tasks and a new set of relics, and it was an absolute blast. In Leagues 3, we're letting you have access to the entirety of Gielinor, including Kebos and Kourend. However, there might be some other elements of the game that are restricted, and Mod Oasis will talk about that more soon. We've also taken relics, a core part of Leagues, and taken a brand new approach for this time around. This time around, relics have been shattered into fragments and scattered all across Gielinor. You can think of a fragment as a weaker version of a relic. They each contain a small portion of a relic's power, but when combined can create some truly powerful effects. You can only have a set amount of fragments active at once, but they can be exchanged inside a bank, so you need to be smart and think about which set of fragments do I bring for each activity. So, each fragment comes with 1 base effect, which is a more standard, weaker effect, but 2 set effects that when used with other unique fragments with the same set effect can create some really powerful buffs. And you might even recognize some of these buffs from previous League's relics. This fragment example comes with a base effect, reduce poison damage by 30%, and it comes with the 2 set effects, Warrior and Abyssal Accumulator. So if you have, let's say, 3 or 4 fragments with the Abyssal Accumulator effect, you will activate that effect, similarly to how if you wear a full set of Guthan's armor, you're going to activate the healing effect. Fragments also come with presets that you can toggle between to make sure that you can carry your favorite combinations of fragments at all times. But collecting fragments won't be easy. Fragments have been scattered across the world as a mysterious character is concerned about the amount of power that you hold. You can prove your worth and earn this power back by collecting these fragments from skilling, bosses, clue scrolls, you name it. We want each league to feel unique and special so that you can create new and exciting memories together. And fragments are definitely an experimental spin on relics, and while just here temporarily, we are super excited to see you guys get creative and come up with some really inventive strategies.
In Leagues 3, we wanted to step away from area restrictions, allowing players to forge their own paths through the league. You'll be free to unlock content and bosses whenever you want, or leave them locked for the entirety of your playthrough. It's up to you. Let's start by looking at skill restrictions. In Leagues 3, you'll only have access to 3 skills at the start. We're not quite ready to divulge what those skills will be, but try to think which skills will be the most useful at the start of a league. Whilst you're pondering that, we're also planning to switch up the start location with Leagues 3. In Twisted League, we started you off in Kourend. In Trailblazer, Lumbridge. We'd like to do the same in this league. Just keep in mind that you have access to the entire map with this league. Something important to keep in mind with this league is not all skills will be priced equally. Some have more value in the main game, and those will be reflected in the costs it takes to unlock them. We really want players to take their own path through this league. Some of you will come in understanding which content you want to unlock already. Others will leave it up to chance, letting fate decide which content you unlock as you collect fragments throughout the league. On top of locking off skills, we also plan to lock off bosses. If you want access to some of the best gear in the game, you'll have to fork over some of your hard-earned unlock points to do so. Some bosses due to their nature like the wilderness bosses, we're going to have to leave unlocked so you can access them from the start of the league, while others, such as raids, you'll have to pay a high price to get access to. This allows us to create a system where you, the player, need to prioritize your purchases. Will you unlock a boss before another, or is a skill more useful for you before unlocking that final raid? We hope that with Leagues 3, we offer a brand new twist on things you've come to expect, letting you experiment with your own playstyle. And that's Leagues 3 in a nutshell.
Yeah, we've definitely taken a more experimental approach this time around while trying to stay true to what a league actually is. And yeah, in summary, relics have been split up into fragments, which are essentially a weaker version of a relic holding a portion of its power. And you can collect these fragments from skills, bosses, and many more activities.
On top of that, we're restricting certain skills and bosses, which you'll have to spend unlock points, which you gain by completing tasks. That's everything we have to show you with Leagues 3 for now. We're really excited to see what you can do with fragments and all the different playstyles you come up with. Back to the studio.
So the theme for this league, it's a little different to the previous ones. Rather than looking at area locking the players, we're looking at content locking. So looking at taking away skills from players, access to bosses, access to minigames, that sort of thing.
The theme for Leagues is fairly abstract, so it's left us with all the room to explore the ideas and concepts surrounding it. I'm especially excited to work more towards the potential narrative of Leagues and kind of why the players are running around doing this crazy stuff in the first place.
With the Twisted League, we managed to lean quite heavily on the lore of the region, which helped us set an overarching thematic to the league. And as the league was quite experimental, it was the first time we'd done something like this, it worked quite nicely. And then when we moved on to Trailblazer League, the idea of going to lots of different places, setting your own path, instantly just sort of gave you that exploration theme running throughout it all, which made it quite easy to have something consistent to work with. But with this league being quite systems heavy, it meant we had to be a lot more creative when it came to figuring out the thematic for this league. I had a similar apprehension with Trailblazer, Leagues 2, but it turned out incredible in the end, so I think it might just be a side effect of this type of content. As Leagues is very interface focused, there's not much rhyme or reason as to why you're doing the things you're doing. Where are these relics coming from? Why are you doing these tasks? And why is this strange rule set dictating the way you play the game? These questions don't require an answer for the players to enjoy the league, but it just helps ground the world and just takes away from that system-heavy nature that is Leagues.
So the idea of giving the players more of a reason to why they're doing the things they are doing in Leagues, a new character is introduced to the game to kind of tell this story and ground the idea of Leagues and what it is actually about. This character is the Sage, and the Sage will work kind of as the League's tutor, but also kind of a narrative hook for Leagues to help tell the story to the player. The designs start off as a hooded, mysterious creature who you wouldn't really know the gender or the race or who they actually are. And it has evolved with the narrative of Leagues. Who is the Sage? Is it a friend or foe? Are they the one behind all of this? Or are they just here to help out? You'll just have to play the league to find out.
Okay, here we go. Leagues number 3 is coming out, and the first league we had was you were stuck on Zaya. Leagues number 2, it was you got to pick. It was like a build your own adventure. You got to pick and choose what areas you unlocked, and you basically purchased them with league points. This one is going to be similar to that, except the whole map is unlocked. Right? But instead of choosing what areas to unlock, instead you'll be choosing what skills and what bosses to unlock with league points.
Great concept.
Before we had a relic system, and we're still using a relic system, but this one you'll have to collect smaller and weaker, what they're called relic fragments. Eventually, with I guess you would collect a few different pieces, which would combine to make one full relic, which will give you a nice perk.
It seems to be a few more customizable options for this one. I like the look of it. And as Mod Flippy was saying, it sounds like the way he was speaking, they have a very general base plan for what it's going to be, but there's still room for a lot of tweaks to the system. Like they know that you're going to be able to unlock rewards. They know the map is going to be open. They know they're going to have these combination relics, but they haven't quite decided maybe what the relics are, which relics will be returning.
Yeah, like some I'm sure we'll see again. They did mention itself that they're going to be reusing some relics because they were cool and they worked, which I'm all for it. What's cool is in the past, you basically had 3. With each tier of relic, you chose one of 3. But once you chose it, that was it. You chose it and you were stuck in it. And it caused, I don't know if you want to call it an issue, but you know how RuneScape players are. They're very min-maxy, and there came to be like one relic that seemed to be way better than the others. And if you didn't choose it, damn, some people wish they chose it. There was one that unlocked unlimited run energy, so you could run everywhere. But other ones would choose, like, you could choose that, or you could choose to save 90% of your runes, or save 90% of your arrows and increase your arrow damage, something like that. So if you didn't choose the run energy one, you'd end up having to walk everywhere, and it's very easy to regret because walking sucks.
There's been in both leagues there was one that if you didn't have it, you were at an extreme disadvantage, right?
Yeah.
Like Last Recall and the run energy one, just like if you didn't have those, you're just way behind the curve.
And sometimes the other ones it was good because they all had their strengths, but some were just much more useful in more areas than others. That's kind of expected. Yeah. It's impossible to get it perfect. But the way they're going with this one is you can swap out relics at any given time. The difference is you'll have and they called it an action bar, and I was like, ooh, poor choice in wording because people are going to be EOC. That's exactly what happened in the Twitch chat. But don't look at Twitch chat; it's toxic as all hell. But really what it is you'll be able to select and have certain relics activated, and if you have them unlocked, then you can basically choose which ones you want to use at any given time. And the idea that they're going for is you're going to go do a task. Well, make sure you pick the right combination of relics for it. So you don't have to worry about maybe picking the wrong one at a certain time. You'll always be able to switch it out depending on what you're doing, which is really cool.
Yeah, I think it's great. It's a great system that they're offering for the relics. Seems to be a lot of customizable options. And if I was to guess, I think it's like basically guaranteed you're going to have infinite run energy. And I'd imagine Last Recall will also be effective on everyone's account. That's just my guess.
Yeah, Last Recall was sick.
Because it's going to be hard to... It was so overpowered, but it's going to be hard to go back to a leagues without Last Recall.
Oh my god, yeah, that's pretty sick.
So I'd imagine they make both of those universal, just off the top of my head. And the fact that it's only running for 6 weeks, I think last time people were pretty burnt out by the end.
I think
there wasn't many people
most
playing.
people burnt out, while others who might not. Yeah, I think you're right. I think most people burnt out. When I hear 6 weeks, I go, damn, I wish it was going to be a bit longer. That being said, I do know that by the end of leagues, I'm ready to go back on my main account. It always feels so slow. It's like hard to get used to about the experience rates, but yeah, you're ready to return to a more permanent and standard game mode, which is the, OG playstyle.
I think I'm going to play this league. I haven't played the last two, but I'm at a place on my Iron Man now where everything is so incredibly slow. I think it'd be fun to have a little change of pace for me. So I do anticipate myself playing this league, at least for the first week. Also, I want that Twisted Kit recolor on the house. Definitely.
Cool. Yeah.
So
That's sweet.
I'm looking forward to this one, actually. This was a surprising announcement for me. Like, I had a feeling Leagues was going to show up, but I wasn't sure. So, a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one, as they say.
I knew it was going to be coming out. This one will be releasing at the end of 2021. So my guess is, like a December, with the Raids 3 probably coming out in February. Anyways, we'll go through that in a minute. But yeah, 6 weeks in length, as you mentioned. You'll be starting off with 3 skills that will be pre-selected, so you don't get to choose them. But you'll only have 3 skills to work with, whatever that means, and you'll be able to unlock more skills with your league points.
Yeah, I think there's still definitely some things that are up in the air for League 3.
Yeah, a lot they want to choose from. They also mentioned about it being somehow story driven, which should be interesting. Anyways, I'm all for it.
Yeah, they've added a new character as well. So yeah.
Very exciting. They said they're really taking a chance. I don't know, maybe chance isn't the right word, but they're really trying something different. And I think that's the move. I think you don't want to be consistent with leagues because then it's like people expect whatever. I think they need to be consistently inconsistent in how leagues play out to make it different every time, and allows them the freedom to maybe try new experimental methods. And if it doesn't work, well, who cares? It's only 6 weeks. You can look forward to the next one.
Exactly. Yeah.
Something like, as you mentioned, Last Recall, having different relics that were so busted compared to the others. Maybe it sucks, but it's...
There's probably going to be one this time as well. And remember, any kind of new mode, they're always experimenting. You don't know how it's going to go the first time, and you have to. You learn every time you do one. So I think they're getting better and better at creating leagues. So I wouldn't be surprised if this one was more fun than both the last two.
Yeah, exactly. And if it's at least a different type of fun where you can't. It feels so different from the last two, because that's how I felt between Leagues 1 and Leagues 2. Like, Leagues 2 was so much more different than Leagues 1, while Leagues 1 was still fun. And Leagues 3, I think they're so different. I think that's what's really important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anywho, looks really cool, but perfect segue into the final update, the big one. Just like how Leagues is different with each iteration, we're getting the third raid installment, and just like how Chambers of Xeric and Theater of Blood are very different from each other, this third raid, the Tomb of Amascut, is going to be much different than Theater of Blood. Anywho, let's let the J-Mods explain it. I gotta say, whenever I see Mod Ed come on, like Runefest or now this stream, I get goosebumps. Like, he is such a good presenter, and I immediately know that whatever he's gonna say is gonna be such an awesome and such a strong, it's very, very strong in its storytelling or its narrative. Anyway, let's get into this announcement. It's about 10 minutes, but this is a good one. If there's anyone that you don't want to skip, it'd probably be this one.
Get on the League World.
Amazing. And it's really exciting to see how Leagues is progressing as we do come up to obviously our third one, and hopefully many more in the future too. So with that said, let's hit the big one. We're going to go to Mod Ed and Mod Arcane.
Long ago, the citizens of the Caridian Desert lived luxurious and prosperous lives, guided by the gods of the Menethite pantheon. But all that changed when Amascut, the goddess of rebirth, was corrupted and warped, becoming the Devourer. Since then, she's had only one goal: to devour every soul in existence. Amascut's brother, Icflarin, along with her former high priestesses, fought tirelessly against her, but eventually she found a way to overcome them. Deep within the desert lies an ancient tomb. In this tomb, there is a great power, and if Amascut can gain it, she'll become unstoppable. You must take the fight to Amascut before it's too late, in Old School's third raiding dungeon, the Tombs of Amascut. Gather your allies and enter the tombs in groups of up to 8. Take on the 4 initial challenges, and if you overcome them, you'll be able to access the lower level. There, you'll face 2 of your greatest foes yet. Defeat these 2 final bosses, and drive Amascut out of the tombs. And of course, claim plenty of loot as well.
With Tombs of Amascut, we're introducing a new system called Invocations. Invocations is a progressive and linear difficulty system. Unlike Theater of Blood and Chambers of Xeric, where you simply have a challenge mode or a hard mode version of it to increase the difficulty even further, we want to have something that players can use to customize to their experience. Invocations are going to be a series of buffs and debuffs to bosses and players alike. Things like increasing the boss's damage, health, defense, changing around weapon styles, different types of defense values such as being weak to stab will now be weak to slash, maybe disabling spellbooks to certain players to be able to make the raid a little more different every single time, all with increased loot potential, of course. So we're hoping with this system that you're going to be able to enable as many as you feel comfortable with, to the point where you're getting rewards that you feel like you deserve. Additionally, with Invocations, we could even do things such as changing how certain fights completely play out, with either just disabling or re-enabling additional mechanics to the boss fights themselves. We're hoping with this new system, with the amount we're going to offer, it's going to be really interesting to see if players can actually complete the raid with all of these Invocations turned on. really hampering the player's ability as well as buffing all the bosses to the extreme. In the upper level of Tombs of Amascut, there's going to be 4 main paths. Each path is going to be themed after a particular avatar. Each path is going to consist of a more challenge style room, which may be more like sepulchre style dodging or defeating enemies in unconventional ways. Once you get through that, you're going to be then faced with a boss. The boss is going to be protecting the avatar, it's going to have various mechanics, and once you defeat a boss, it's then going to change the raid in a certain way. You can defeat any of these paths in whatever order you choose. However, the order you choose matters. Once you defeat one, it's going to maybe buff or debuff the rest of the raid in some way. So there's going to be a real emphasis on choices. Once you defeat all 4 bosses of the upper level, you're going to then unlock the lower level. You're going to progress down and you're going to be faced with 2 bosses you're going to have to fight at the same time. This is going to be a really difficult fight, but you're going to have to overcome it to drive Amascut out of the tomb. And once you do, you can then claim your prizes. With the new raids come new rewards. We're going to have a blog coming out to you shortly that's going to be detailing all the new rewards we're going to be offering for this raid. However, let's give you a bit of a sneak peek now. The first one I want to talk about is a Hecker of Tumakan. This is a new powered wand, and it's going to have an attack speed of 2 cycles. However, we're also calling it a variable attack speed weapon. It's going to attack fast 3 times in a row, then the 4th attack is going to be a much slower, powerful attack. This is going to be a very high skill weapon that's going to take a bit of getting used to, but we think it'll be really fun, and magic also needs a bit of love. The next reward we want to talk about is a new ranged armor set called the Masori armor set. This is going to be 3 pieces of equipment consisting of chest, legs, and an amulet. This is going to introduce a new status effect into the RuneScape called Low Life. Low Life is a status effect that will activate when you're on less than 40% of your maximum hit points. When you're a low life, this equipment will gain additional stats. The idea behind this armor set is to have a much more of a focus on high risk, high reward gameplay. So you're going to be really low health during this content, but you're going to be getting much more offensive capabilities whilst doing so. The amulet is going to be slightly different, where it will be a very damaging amulet, but it's also going to have an additional effect of damaging you constantly. So this amulet is going to help you get to that 40% threshold and keep you at that threshold. The last reward I want to talk about, since I could talk about rewards all day, is the Ward of Elidness. This is going to be a new best in slot mage offhand. It's going to drop in a broken state that you're going to need to repair with an arcane sigil and some runes. This is going to be a new shield that's going to feature a stat that we've never really had on a mage offhand before, Mage Strength bonus. We're hoping that anyone who does any sort of mage combat is going to really want this item.
The Tombs of Amascut is our most narrative-focused raid yet, and no narrative is complete without a quest. Before the raid launches, you'll be able to experience the next quest in the desert storyline, Beneath Cursed Sands. In this sequel to Contact, you'll have to investigate some mysterious disappearances from the golden city of Menaphos. Solve this mystery, and you'll unlock access to the raid itself. The quest is launching before the raid to give you plenty of time to prepare. So there you have it, a new quest, a new raid, and of course, some brand new rewards. We'll be sharing much more on the Tombs of Amascut very soon. But until then, thank you.
When I first heard we were doing an update in the desert, the Caridian Desert, we're near Menaphos, we're near Sophonim, my mind instantly goes to, Egypt. That, the history, the lore, the architecture. I think we're going to deliver content that's going to be really epic, really different to what we've seen in old school. The creative process, the start of it, how we start these big pieces of content. We get the artists, we get the developers, we get everyone in a room, and we talked about the lore, and we started to flesh out ideas. We started, talking about our favorite bits of reference, the movies, the games that inspire us, the feeling that we want the players to feel like, when they're in these, puzzles and boss rooms.
We pulled out a lot of different images, references from real life, films, TV shows, things like that, and kind of picked apart how that would be applied to things like environments, characters, and even the rewards that the players will be able to get their hands on. The lore itself is really interesting, and from an art side of things, I'm really excited to start working on some of the bosses. When looking at Egyptian themes, there's a lot of really interesting design and architecture that can be brought into old school, and it's going to be really interesting to see how that translates. The ideation phase is really important, I think, because you can start off with an idea, and once you discuss it with other people, pick apart things that probably won't work, things that could work, you might end up with something completely different that you didn't expect, but it's just so much better than what you started with. So yeah, it's a really cool process.
When it comes to the puzzle rooms, we're really pulling from a really wide range of references, specifically ideas really outside the game. We're looking at building puzzle rooms that are things that players have never done before in old school. things that we're getting engine changes to allow us to do these things that people aren't going to expect because it doesn't exist anywhere else in old school.
So the boss designs that we're currently working with at the moment are all really unique and interesting. It's something that's not really kind of been introduced into old school before. There's a lot of interest in shape language and a lot of interesting influences from obviously Egyptian designs. We've had some challenges presented. There have been ideas that on paper sound really cool and amazing, but when you kind of think about the engine restrictions, it would be a little bit difficult to implement it and get it into game. That being said, we're not saying no to any of the ideas just yet. We're finding creative solutions to work around these problems that we've got and find a way to actually get it into game. And I think in the long run, it'll be really cool for the players to see what kind of new things we're introducing, and it'll be a great experience for them.
We're thinking really deeply about the lore, about the story that we're telling with these boss rooms and the bosses themselves. I don't want to spoil anything, but it's we're really digging deep into those and building thematics that not only give each boss room their own special feel, gameplay and visuals, but also thematically overall the story that this whole bit of content is going to tell. Early days right now, and what we have in store. I think it's going to be, amazing. I can't wait to show people.
All right, there it is.
Oh boy, this is exciting, hey?
I was like, they had their 3 updates, and I saw all over Reddit people being like, well, it's going to be Dead Man Mode, Group Iron Man, Twist, the new leagues. And I was like, well, they got to tease something else, right? And then, of course, the first 3, you're like, ugh. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm still excited for the first 3, but you're just like, I was like, okay, this is exactly what everybody thought. And then they were like, we have one more big announcement. And I was like, here it is. Oh my God, what is it? And it came on.
If it had to be Raids 3. Like, there was no way it was being anything else. Sorry, I cut you off.
No, I was so excited when he started talking about the lore and the story of the desert gods and anyways just everything going on there, and I was like, holy shit, here we go. And then of course they announced the new raid and they announced the kind of story behind it, which is really cool. I think we've talked about it. I think you even mentioned it where the desert is one of the coolest areas, but it doesn't get as much love as the rest of the game world.
And I have to say, you guys just heard that artist talking, the American one. He sounds so excited, and in the video, he just looked so happy about what he had done. And I'm really looking forward to this entire thing. I already was, but the fact that it got announced is just, it. I think if this wouldn't have happened, I don't want to talk about that scenario. But it makes sense that they've been working on something big, and the fact that it's scheduled for January, like early next year. Of course, there might be delays. Is even more exciting. Kind of like this is basically what we predicted in the last episode, I would say.
Yeah, but
that prediction did sort of go off what the community wants, and at the end of the day, Jagex tends to just give the community, what they want, because they're also members of the community themselves.
It's one of their
they all play the game as well.
It's one of the strong points, and like Blizzard right now has like so much
oh my God,
so much is surfacing about what's going on in that company, and you're just like, what a fall from grace. People used to love Blizzard, and now you realize like what piece of shit the company is, and like the stuff.
But Blizzard feels like a large corporation, whereas like Jagex, specifically the old school team, feels very small and tight knit to me. It feels like the player base has a way more connection to the actual developers, which is not the case at Blizzard.
Yeah, and it's like, I would be so shocked and heartbroken if, Blizzard right now is having all these sexual harassment, and like allegations, all of this like really shitty stuff that they've done.
It's very, very bad.
Yeah, and you're starting to see all these clips of BlizzCon of like the announcers making these sexist jokes and stuff. Anywho, it just makes I see that and I look at Jagex and I go, you know what, we're so lucky to have like a company kind of like Jagex. For all their faults, they are very transparent and they truly feel a part of the community as much, and we feel a part of the community. Like we all feel linked together. Where with Blizzard, there clearly is a disconnect there. God damn. But anywho, this isn't about Blizzard. This is about old school RuneScape. Yeah, so they know that we all want to raids 3. They know the desert is a place to do it, and we all pitched it, right? We had the guess that raids 3 would be in the desert because it's like
and it seemed obvious, right? There wasn't any desperate need of some attention and some love.
That's it. Yeah, it's like one of the few places that still need to be filled out on the map, and it's been around forever. That being said, the way this raid is playing out, I was like pleasantly surprised by.
How so?
Because I love that like every raid, let's just relate it to World of Warcraft as much as like I don't want to do it, but they have raids. Raids a core part of the game. Every raid you go and you kill bosses. Some things are different, but generally speaking, it's all the same. It's a 10-man, 25-man, whatever it is. Raids are very similar one to the other. We have 3. We're gonna have 3 in the near future, and each raid is going to be they're completely different. Where you have Chambers of Xeric, where it scales depending on how many people are in it, and there's X amount of rooms, and they kind of are randomized. There's certain combinations you get, but they're basically randomized depending on. So the raid layout will be kind of different every time. Then there's Theater of Blood, which is your typical raid. It's groups 3 to 5, and it doesn't change ever. And now we're gonna have this new one, the Tomb of Amascus, where it's going to have multiple levels. So I think that they mentioned there's going to be 2 levels at least, with different bosses on each one of them, and different challenge rooms and different types of rooms. It's kind of the way they make it sound. It's like a choose your own adventure, kind of like with leagues where you choose relics. You'll do the same thing, but you'll choose what route to kill the bosses, and depending on which bosses you kill, it will cause buffs or nerfs to happen throughout the raid, maybe even to yourself, which will then play out how you fight the next boss. So they call this invocations, and they say to increase difficulty. Now, they mentioned that it was like very inspired by Path of Exile. Have you played that game at all?
Nope, never.
It's kind of like Diablo 3.
Okay.
But it's like Deegan plays it a bunch, and I got the craving to play an ARPG, which is kind of like a Diablo action role-playing game. So I looked up Path of Exile because it's free, and I went on the subreddit, and people are like, yeah, don't play this game. I was like, hey guys, I'm a new player here. Can you give me some advice? I want to get started. I'm kind of a casual player. And they're like, oh, you're casual? Yeah, I don't play this game. It's not really meant for you then. I was like, oh shit. So I never played it, but they said this raid is heavily inspired by Path of Exile, or at least mechanics from Path of Exile. And they mentioned this in pairing with invocations. So I went and talked to Deegan. I was like, yo, tell me, what are invocations? And he said in Path of Exile, there's like rare monsters, and they have certain mechanics. So like, let's say one of them leaves a trail of fire when it goes around. If you kill it with a certain weapon, you now absorb that fire, and let's say when you attack, you do extra damage that's fire damage or something. So they took that idea, and they're going to be using that with raids. So for example, now they say it here where this is only to increase difficulty. So it's going to be basically like a hard mode built into the 3rd iteration of raids.
Yeah, and there's the scale as well. So you go from between 1 and 8 players, which is nice as well. So I think they're learning from their mistakes with and the positive. Sort of they're learning from the mistakes and the positives that came out of the 2 previous raids. Mm-hmm. So if we look at Chambers of Xeric, what was the great part about Chambers of Xeric? Well, it was really easy to get into because the mechanics aren't very punishing. What was the bad part about it? And the other good part is like there's lots of sweet items available in Chambers of Xeric. It teaches you a lot about the game. Mm-hmm. It's just overall a very fantastic raid, but it does have some negative points. Scouting, people don't like scouting. It's very obviously one of the worst parts about it. I forgot to mention a positive is that it can be soloed and it can be done by 100 people. That's another great part. Mm-hmm. Another bad part of it is, scouting was number 1. Number 2 is that if you do want to make the raid harder, you have to have alts to scale it up, which, is pretty annoying to have extra accounts be logging in. So making the variable difficulty with the invocations sort of like alleviates that problem.
Yeah.
But allowing it to be soloable makes it so that if you're playing something like an Iron Man, or if you're just looking to, practice content by yourself, you can do it by yourself. Because that was the big holdup with Theater of Blood, is it's an extremely difficult raid, but it's also extremely punishing for learners. So the skill floor to actually get into into Theater of Blood is extremely high.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you get in and you're just going to be wiping all the time. You're going to be dying a lot until you feel comfortable with the content, which Chambers of Xeric, and you wipe, like, you're completely done. You don't get to retry it. It's really punishing.
Mm-hmm.
Chambers of Xeric, not so much. You die, just come right on back in. Don't worry about it. Not a big deal. I always say that to learners. If you die, it's not a big deal. Just get some more brews, come back in home. You gotta learn somehow. You only learn by being in it. Theater of Blood, you missed your P2 walk, you're dead.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're gonna have to try next time that we get to this point. So it's punishing for learners. The skill floor is way too high, and you have to run it in teams of 3, 4, or 5 if you want to, but typically 3 and 4 is what you see. And that's not always, available for people. So I think this raid is meant to be, on average, I would say difficulty higher than Chambers of Xeric, lower than Theater of Blood.
Okay, fair enough.
The majority of people, like, you will be able to get into it. It might be a progression from raids 1 to raids 3 to raids 2. But the invocations allow it to be just as difficult as Theater of Blood for people who want to do that.
I would say it sounds like they're even making it as hard as, maybe even harder than the Theater of Blood hard mode.
At its most intense. For sure.
Yeah, we don't quite know, but it's to increase the difficulty. So it allows you to kind of customize the raid on how you want it. Who knows what this means in terms of unique items or the chance of whatever it is. They didn't really go into detail, and again, we're probably looking at a February release, so it's like 6 months away. But the idea is, you activate certain invocations, and it's going to apply buffs or nerfs to your party throughout the whole raid. So this could be, the bosses do more damage, they have higher resistance, or maybe it's going to be like, this boss was weak to crush, it's now strong against crush and it's weak against stab. It might make it so that, you used ancient magics to kill a bunch of ads in this room. Well, guess what? You can't use ancient magics anymore. So those are some examples as well. And a thing that they mentioned that, circling back to what I was saying earlier, and I don't fully understand it, and I think when we get more, Q&As and we get a dev blog about it, it'll make more sense. But it'll be a multi-level raid. So there's gonna be, let's say there's 2 raids, it's probably gonna be a pyramid. And the top floor will have, let's say, 4 bosses, and with some challenge rooms and maybe some puzzle rooms that'll be, they said they want to make the puzzles more dynamic. When you kill or complete these rooms, and these are going to be bosses for a certain avatar, which I assume is kind of like one of the gods, it will change the rest of the raid. Now, I think this differs from the invocations, unless I'm misunderstanding, but I believe this will basically allow you to choose your path. So similar to with Chambers of Xeric, where people scout out specific routes. This one, you might be able to be like, it's optimal for us to do these rooms in this order. I would guess they're going to have some sort of random element to it, so you can't just go in and be like, this is the same route. When you do this raid, always do it in this order. I'm sure they're going to switch it around so that you don't always have a static setup. Like, it's going to be different every time.
It's going to be different than Theater of Blood, yeah, but I don't think it's going to be as annoying to scout as the other raid. You don't think scouting is going to be part of it. I don't think scouting is going to be part of it. But what is going to happen is there's going to be an optimal set of invocations where you're going to make it just hard enough that you get the best rewards, but not too hard so that it's annoying without increasing the rewards. And I imagine that level is going to be right between raids 1 and raids 2. So and that's what they were saying on the couch too. When you guys heard, that's what they want it to be. They don't want it to be as hard as Theater of Blood to get into.
They want it to
have the potential to be better. So if you're a great team, you can make even more money. Obviously, we're going to talk about the rewards in a second.
Yeah, totally.
But the whole concept, I think, is fantastic. I've also, if you listen to the artist, he mentioned that they're going to be adding special mechanics, and I think there's going to be something to do with the floor disappearing and then reappearing with a new boss. or something like that.
Cool. It's exciting. It's like, to me, it's their updated Chambers of Xeric in a way where, like, imagine you go to Chambers of Xeric and you get 4 rooms placed in front of you, and they're like, choose one of the 4. You have Mutadiles, you have the Crab Room, the Thieving Box, Tightrope, whatever, and you're gonna be like, well, this room is best to choose out of the 4. Let's go into that. You know what I mean? I think it's gonna be slightly randomized, but they have it so that you don't need to scout to find the proper setup. That every setup will be good to run, but just different enough that you can't go in being like, this is how, first room, it's going to be like Maiden of Sugadinti of theater. I'm really taking my chances with pronouncing some of these names, but
I've never even said that full thing. I just say Maiden.
That's safe. That's smart. Yeah. But one thing that I really love about this, and I kind of wish they did this with the other raids, was they are locking it behind a quest called, let me find the name here, Beneath Cursed Sands. So it's going to be the next quest in the quest line that I guess it ended with Contact. At first I thought it was Desert Treasure. This is going to be like the Desert Treasure 2, but I'm not super familiar with the exact quest line of the desert, unfortunately. So I guess Contact was the one previously, and the idea is that a bunch of citizens from the city of Menaphos have gone missing, and you need to figure out what the hell is going on there. And if you look at the desert map, you'll see that a lot of it is covered up with just nothing. It's been kind of blacked out. They want to flesh out the southern and the eastern shoreline, so that we have the full desert, but we won't get the city of Menaphos with this quest, unfortunately.
Not yet. That's going to be in the future.
Raids 4, baby.
So yeah, sort of like east and southeast of the pyramid, where it's just like a black square. They're going to fill it out, which is nice.
Yeah, and then we only have a few other spots that need to be fleshed out, which, anyways, very exciting.
Are you happy overall?
I am, I'm so excited. This reinvigorated my, I was, like I mentioned, I was a little bit burnt out. I was playing some Tarkov. I saw this, and then I was like, I haven't logged on Tarkov in like 2.5 days. Not saying I won't jump on this week, but I'm super excited, and I'm like, man, I want to get my Inferno cape. Will I? Who knows? We'll find out. But I want to get my Inferno cape by the time this raid comes out. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna try to go for my Inferno cape. I'm probably gonna do that anyways. But yeah, the raid just gives me a lot of motivation to keep grinding for gear.
Do you think this is something that you'll want to try on day 1?
Oh, absolutely, 100%. I'll be there day 1.
Nice.
I think I'll have pretty much all the gear. Whether or not I have a twist bone and a scythe is up for debate, but whether or not they're even used there is another issue. I'd imagine there's going to be a lot of magic in this raid, because usually, we haven't talked about the items yet, but the items are usually a good indication of what the content will be like. And I think the 2 main items, the 2 big ones, are both magic related. So there's not going to be much melee. It's just my guess based on the items.
And this is, of course, going to be subject to change. We're going to talk about it in a bit. But if you remember with Chambers of Xeric, and this is going way back, they pitched having, what do they call it? Elder armor, which was going to be melee armor, but instead of increasing your strength bonus, it would increase your accuracy bonus. So that was one of the items they pitched, never made it into the game. And then, of course, with Theater of Blood, they pitched at Runefest there being a melee mage and range set that was supposed to be as good as Barrows outside of the raid, as good as Barrows, or better than best in slot in the raid. So that's what they pitched. Again, didn't even make it to the poll blogs. So I'm sure this could definitely happen with these next items, but this is what they're pitched. And I think it really helps you get an idea of where their head is at. They talked about having a sword you infuse with blood runes that when you attack with the sword, it would do AoE damage to, it would do a chain attack to whoever's the closest monster. That eventually changed to the Scythe, which does 3 hits on big monsters, and you still infuse it with blood runes.
Let's get into it. I'm excited to talk about these items.
Okay. So what exactly are these new items? coming into the game. So the first one they talked about is it's a new magic wand, and the way this would work and this very cool idea, I think. It's the first 3 attacks will be very quick hits, followed by the 4th hit, which is going to be a slower attack, but will hit harder.
Yeah, so a variable attack speed on a weapon.
Yeah, so it's almost like it ramps up, like quick fire 2 shots, and then you take a second, charges up, boom, you're going to do a lot of damage on the 4th hit.
I believe it was 2, and then I thought it was the 3rd hit that was... Anyways, either way, it's like 2 or 3, and then 1 big finish. Yep. And the way the ticks work is you'll be able to like manipulate it with other weapons. So as they were mentioning on the blog, you could go quick hit, switch to your Sanguinesti staff, do a hit there, and then 4 ticks later, because Sanguinesti is 4 tick, you the mage wand will remember that it's going to be the big hit, so you can have it kind of saved.
Oh, really?
Or you'll be able to, I think so. Or you'll be maybe able to go into rooms where it's on the 3rd hit, so you've already used the first 2 on something small, and then you can walk into a room, instantly start with a big one.
Interesting.
I think there's going to be a lot of options to play around with, because the weapon will remember which attack it's on.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's like a powered wand, I believe, is what they said. Do we know what it's called? Did you mention that already?
You know what? They did mention it, and if you listen to the clip, you would have got the name. I didn't write it down because I'm not going to pronounce it properly anyways, but I just wrote down wand.
This is, I think, the premier... this is probably one of the premier items in the raid that you'd be getting.
Yeah.
I think the mega rare is going to be the mage offhand, but it's... hard to say. You know what? No, I don't. I think this is going to be the mega rare. That's my guess.
Well, let's see this. So anyways, sounds really cool. And of course, they have a lot of time to test it out to see how it works. And if it's broken in any way, they're going to fix it. But it's a very cool, I love the mechanic idea. It's unique. And I hope they continue finding new ways. Best in slots are great, but if they work differently, like the scythe is a great example. I love how cool the scythe is, and the fact that it hits 3 damage hits on big monsters. We haven't seen that before. That's pretty cool. So similarly, this is going to be
that
neat.
It's expensive to run as well. So I'd imagine this powered wand is expensive to run.
Yeah, don't...
Sanguinesti staff is expensive to run. They're all expensive to run. So.
Don't make us do like vials of sand or anything to charge it.
That'd be hilarious.
People are getting sick of charges, but who knows?
I think they have to make charges for large weapons like that to make them viable. Like the twisted bow is a mistake with how cheap it is to run. But I like that the Sanguinesti staff, the Sang and the scythe both have upkeep costs, which are expensive, which make it not just best in slot at like every single boss you do. You need to have gold sinks in the game, and it's good because it keeps the price of blood runes really high. So there are a lot of positives to having upkeep costs on high tier weapons.
Yeah,
and people who can afford those weapons can afford to run them as well. So it's just good for the whole economy.
My only issue is when you get if we were, and luckily that's not really the case, because when you look at Theater of Blood, we have Justiciar, we have the Rapier. None of those require charges. My only worry would be like you get to a point in the game where like there's 20 different pieces of armor and weapons that all require their own different charges, and then it becomes kind of a pain in the ass to maintain it. We have the blowpipe, you have barrows, you have the elven, the crystal armor with the crystal shards, and you're gonna get the Theater of Blood stuff. I think we can get to a point that's silly, but
yeah, I agree. It can be annoying, but I think for the overall economy, it's important that those things are there.
Yeah, I think
supply and demand. It keeps the demand for certain items or the charging materials really high.
Yeah,
which makes other skills profitable rather than just being the guy who has. Because once you have these items, you're rich enough to keep them running.
Yeah, that's true.
And, like I have friends who just. They buy 100, 200k blood runes at a time, and they ask their friends to put in max blood runes for them sometimes. And you just always stay well stocked, and it's not like you're losing money. You're still making money with these mega scale items that you're using.
I think my issue is if you it rarely happens, but it's a pain in the ass when it does. Like if you're in a raid and then you're tentacle whip breaks, or you're in a raid and your blowpipe runs out, and your trident runs out, or your scythe. You know what I mean? Like, there's too many things to remember to check before you go into a raid.
It's just your fault, Diz.
Damn it, it's always my fault. But I mean, I would definitely say it's an issue if every item from Theater of Blood had charges. But you make a good point where it's only 2.
It's just the big items, because you don't want them to just be freely taken anywhere.
Yes, that's fair. So, okay, that's a good point. Now, moving on, because that's not all we're getting. We're getting a little bit of we're getting a few different pieces. But let's stick to Mage first. The next one, which I think you're calling to be you think this might be competing for the mega rare drop, eh? This the new.
I'm not sure if it will be. It's definitely going to be cheaper than the mage staff. Just let's explain it first, and then I'll explain my reason.
Okay, so it is going to be a new magic offhand, and you might have understood this one better, but combining it with the arcane sigil, got it right, will make this new mage offhand, which will give you a magic strength bonus. Is that right?
Yes.
So what?
Which is crazy. So it's going to increase your max hit.
And this differs from the percentage that we're kind of have with like ancestral and stuff.
Yes. I don't know how, but it does differ.
Okay.
I actually don't know the difference between the percentages and the.
Well, it's you know what? It probably works similar to like with a Dragon Warhammer does like what 30% reduction on defense, and then the BGS does a flat whatever you hit. So maybe
it's hard to say because the only comparison we have is like Void, where you get a percentage damage.
Is it damage or is it just? I thought it was just accuracy.
Void, it's damage as well. It's definitely damage as well. I don't know. Okay, so maybe it's going to be this, like it's going to guarantee increase your max hit rather than potentially increase your max hit. Or it's not going to. It's going to potentially increase your max hit rather than guaranteeing increasing your max hit. Either way, it's going to be basically an upgraded version of the Arcane Spirit Shield, which is a drop from Corp, 1 in 13,000.
Yep.
1,300. So I think this item is going to be relatively cheap because there's probably going to be more of them not a lot of people do Corp, which is why the items remain expensive. I think it's about 100 mil for the Arcane and about like 50 for the Spectral. And the Ellie is still, equivalent to a Twisted Bow in price. So let me just quickly do the math here. If you're doing so on an Iron Man, for example, if you're doing max efficiency Corp, 230-hour grind to get the Arcane Sigil, which is not too bad. I don't think the game should be balanced around Iron Man, so I don't mind this at all. But I think there's going to be more if people are running this raid a ton, and this has a reasonable drop rate. I think it's going to be cheap because it's going to be harder to get an Arcane Spirit Shield than it is to get one of these things.
Right.
Kind of like the same thing goes with the Pegasian Crystal. It's easy to get a Pegasian Crystal, but it's hard to get a pair of Ranger Boots. Whereas that's not the case with the Primordial Crystal. It's harder to get the Primordial Crystal than it is to get the Dragon Boots. So therefore, the Prim holds all the value. So this item together is going to be very expensive, but I think the value is going to be locked behind the Arcane rather than this item. At least once we've been running the raid for a while. That's just my guess.
Yeah, that you know what? I guess that's something we'll have to see. Going back to like how effective would Mage Strength be? So looking at Void, it gives you actually similar to Ancestral. It gives you a percentage in damage. So and this is with Void Elite. It gives you a 2.5% increase to magic damage. So, and that's all we've seen so far is increase to magic damage. And I think having a spell that now gives you magic strength, which is a flat increase versus percentile. Having percentage-based gear is going to cause that flat number to fucking really be. It's going to be, more strong.
It's going to be really good. Either way, it's going to be a really good item, and you're going to take it absolutely everywhere, and it's going to be expensive as hell, I'd imagine.
Oh yeah. So that one looks cool.
You can use it on all your bursting. You can use it on all your raids. Oh, it's going to be so good, dude.
So now my question for you is, what are your thoughts on, having these items that you then seemingly arbitrarily attached to other armor. You know, like the primordial boots with the dragon boots to make your primordial boots, or the Pegasians with ranger boots, or you know, the Kodai wand with the master wand. And now we're gonna have this. What are your thoughts on attaching items to old items in a way to keep, you know, older items still relevant?
Yeah, I think it's keeping older items and older content relevant. So if you were to remove, like, just make it a new shield that's just better than the arcane, Corp is like no longer, like, why would you do it? Basically, there's no reason. The arcane would be worth no money because it's not nearly as good and it's significantly harder to get than this item. So they're doing it to keep old content and old items relevant in price, to keep mostly people happy, right? Like, for example, Barrow's gloves take a long time to get. They don't let you get the Hydra leather, which is just the ferocious gloves, just a better version of them without that.
True. Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like something that we have in old school, and I just kind of accept it for what it is. When a game comes out fresh, when a game is so old like this and we have so much content, I think it's important that you keep a lot of the content playable so that people have a variety of things to do. So for that reason, I don't mind the attachments.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Though I agree it can get tedious at times. I think overall, it's in a game that's as old as old school. It's kind of a necessary evil.
That's fair. I do personally. I agree with you. I mean, I think it's annoying, but I get why they do it. And maybe it's like a necessary evil. Man, it is thunderstorming over here, and I think it's going to get picked up on the microphone, so I apologize in advance. Even more tragic if the power goes out. So anywho, that's the new mage offhand.
Very cool. It's going to be very desirable. I'm not sure about the wand because it's like a new item to the game. I'm sure it's going to be strong, but I can guarantee you that this is going to be used everywhere.
All right, but let's move on to the next section of gear, and this is going to be focusing on ranged. And you know what, people have called it. They said, you know, this blowpipe nerf, but we're going to be seeing some new ranged armor to make up for it. That's kind of what happened on top of the crystal armor. This is a new ranged set of armor, and it's going to be a chest and legs, and I don't believe there's going to be a helmet involved with this one. They seem to make a point to not mention that, but it's going to have a set effect that is called low life. It's going to be this new low life mechanic. We kind of already have it in the game, but again, this is coming straight from Path of Exile, where you can build your character to be a low life build. And the idea is when your character has less than 40% HP, you will be doing increased DPS. And the reasoning for 40% is that there is none, or at least very little, damage that's unavoidable that will hit you for more than 40%. So if you're really good at the game, you won't get one hit KO'd. But if you're bad at the game, it's very easy to mess up and get killed. You know, you'll have 40 HP, which is, not much at all. So how this armor's set, and we'll be coming with a new amulet. And what this amulet does is it will constantly damage you until you hit that 40% threshold. So it's a way to keep you at the 40% mark to allow you to, take advantage of this new low life DPS increase mechanic. What are your thoughts on that?
Cool. Yeah. So it already exists. You mentioned in the form of Darox, where you can be on the lower you are, the more damage it deals, which is a cool set and has a lot of unique options in the game. It's a little bit slow, like it only attacks 6 ticks because you need to add the weapon. This one lets you pick your weapon, so you can be using the blowpipe, you can be using the twisted bow. The amulet kind of replaces the helm in this set. You won't be using an Anguish. I think it's really cool. It's a nice direction for the game to go, sort of trying. And as the mod was saying, I can't remember who is the mod on the couch was mentioning, I got this from Path of Exile, but I wanted to experiment with this.
Arcane, yeah, that's mod.
It was Arcane. He wanted to experiment with this armor set, and I think that's a great idea. I love having unique passive effects, and I think it's going to be incredibly powerful. It's in certain places in the game. So the amulet kind of is going to keep your health low. He mentioned he didn't want the locator orb or a rock cake to become part of PVM, and I think that's a good call. even though it may, and I imagine this might be the case, if the amulet doesn't have any actual range strength, you might just bring a locator orb and get down low anyways, and then bring your anguish for even more DPS. So there's a bunch of different options with this armor set. But I like the direction it's going in. I think it's unique, and I think that's what we need. We need a bit of innovation when it comes to armor. You mentioned, like, sure, I could just give you a better version of Armadyl if you want, but like, I don't really know that anyone actually wants that.
Yeah, I think we're over flat increases, and I think what most of us want is, like, they say let's make niche armor, but like when you have like Arclight where it does more damage to demons, that's cool, that's great. But I think what's really cool is when you have this unique armor set like this new armor that's coming, or the Barrows is a great example where they have really cool set bonuses where they're super unique. Some of them play out in really unique scenarios, like Verax being brought to Calphite Queen. That was like the go-to back in the day. Or Callisto, people would bring it there. Which is, that stuff is cool.
It still happens. So they then that's old armor. That's like 07 armor, So this is a new update and a new direction for a range specifically. And I think
we need, going forward, that needs to be the way we do it, or they do it, I should say, where new armor comes out. Okay, it's not just a flat, it's straight up better. It's, it's better, but you get these passive effects, whatever it is.
It's the reason I love the twisted bow. Though I've never shot one, I love the concept of a twisted bow in that it's good at some places, it's the best at some places, and it's bad at others. This armor set could potentially be a little bit more dangerous than that because, of course, it just gives you a boatload of extra damage. But I mean, it's really going to depend on the numbers for this set.
Yeah, I think it's cool. It's one of those things where, maybe you as an Iron, if you're learning new content in the future, you're not going to maybe bring this armor, but when you've mastered that content, you will then bring it because you're like, now I'm just going to fly through kills. I'll get rewarded with it, and I know not to mess up and just get one hit KO while I'm trying to learn whatever fight it is.
Yeah, I'm also curious to see how strong it is just on its base, like without the passive effect. If you're at full health, to see if it's like maybe Black D'hide level, then you may as well just bring it everywhere, right? But
yeah, interesting.
It's going to be an interesting set, and I like the direction they're going with it. Whether this one passes the polls or not, I think is going to be the most up in the air. But I expect the other two to pass the poll pretty comfortably.
And I think we should look at it as this is where their head is at when they're coming up with concepts of new armor and gear for this new raid. We might, when it comes time for the new raid to come out, might not see anything like this come into the poll blog, but this is the concept. This is what they're writing down.
Look,
and they're going to play with the
like
numbers.
Arcane said, power creep is inevitable when you keep adding raids into games. So we do need to accept that at a certain point. We just had a huge blowpipe nerf and a range meta overhaul. So I think a little bit of extra power in the game is not the worst thing. I'd rather have a slight power creep every once in a while than have no content. So
exactly, you need to have power creep, but it's he mentions it needs to be done well. That's the tricky part, in a game. A lot of MMOs, the way they do this is a new expansion comes out with new armor. Well, guess what? Everything just got increased exponentially. So all that gear that you've been working for is no longer relevant in this new content. That sucks. And part of the beauty with RuneScape is they don't do that. They kind of have the whip came out how long ago, and it's still good today.
And we talked about that necessary evil, whip, tentacle whip, Prims, Primordial Boots, Pegasian Boots, Vernic Defender Hilt. All these attachments are sort of like building on that sort of system that we already have created. So I think overall, I'm hoping that, maybe this is the reason they took so long to come out with all these updates, because they were really trying to perfect, this system and these items. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to reading the poll blog, which hopefully we'll get shortly after you've listened to this long ass episode.
Yeah, I think we might get it might be a little bit longer, because I know with Runefest, they used to, as soon as the Runefest announcement happened, boom, we got a dev blog for every Runefest announcement. This one, I think they're probably going to wait until we get a little bit closer, because we have the Dead Man Mode poll blog, but we don't have any of the other poll blogs for the other pieces of content. So anyway, maybe we'll see. But overall, what are your thoughts on everything together? What was your thoughts on the Summer Summit? Was it exceed your expectations? Did it kind of just hit exactly what you expected?
It met my expectations, which is all I asked for, and I'm very excited about it. I'm really happy that there's going to be new content in the game going forward.
Yeah, I would say the new raid for me has exceeded my expectations, like the raid itself specifically, with them taking this cool, unique approach, and what we're gonna see is completely different than what we've already seen. And you know what? If they're gonna do this for every raid, where every raid has a completely different setup than the Theater of Blood, than Chambers of Xeric, I'm all for it. That's sick. That's a really unique way of doing it, and I'm all for that. If you want to make raids 4 completely different than all 3 other raids, hell yeah, I'm down.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so there you go, guys. Summer Summit, big news, big stuff there. Really great stuff to look forward to. Now, on the tail end of the big ol' updates, we get to talk about A Night at the Theater rework. Yay. Save the best for last. That's what they say, right? No, this is the quest that we got was a very small and minor quest that really shouldn't have been a quest, but it was for whatever reason. They've since gone back and reworked it, so there's actual story tied in. Have you had a chance to do this quest?
I actually have not had a chance to do this quest. So this is all up to you, Dills.
It's better. It's an actual quest now, and it's a lot longer than I thought it was. You know, I got a group together to go do entry mode because I wanted to see, or I wanted to do story modes because I wanted to see what is new in the raid. By the way, nothing changes within the raid itself. And it took me like 40 minutes to go and complete all the steps before it leads into completing the quest itself. Anyways, it's a decent quest. It's got some cool stuff, some nice cutscenes and whatnot that gives you a little bit of lore and backstory behind who Verzik Vitura is and why she is the way she is, which is really neat. And if you've completed the quest, don't worry, you don't have. I mean, if you've completed the raid, you don't need to go back and complete the raid again to complete the quest. Once you get to that section, you can bypass it. That being said, if you have completed the quest already, now that the quest is an actual quest, you'll need to go back and complete that. Anyways, there's some cool stuff there. Had to tack that one in the end. Anyways, we'll be right back after the break, because Heartless, you got something spicy to talk about, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
All right, we're taking a quick break to head over to the Grand Exchange, where we get to talk about, like, I guess money stuff. Guys, I've been in the weeds. Anyone who's listening to this, once it kind of comes out, I've been in the weeds. Oh man, I wanted to get this episode out right away, and then I got stuck doing work stuff. Work really picked up. I've been doing like freelance work on the side as well, and it just really picked up. So I had to put this off by a week, and that killed me. Having flashbacks to the old New Year's before COVID, where this is like a 6-month break after recording an episode. That was rough. We're not doing that again. So yeah, very sorry for the delay here. I know we're like midway through the episode, but whatever. I felt like I had to say it. I just hate when I have an episode recording, it's just looming. And guys, this is such a big episode. I know a lot of people understand, but this was such a big episode. Holy smokes! I was very excited for. I was very happy with how this turned out, and I'm super excited for all the things to come. Deadman mode, leagues, the new raid, Group Iron Man. Not so much. I'm down to watch the YouTubers who do it. Anyway, this is the segment where we get to talk about how you can support the show if you want to. If sometimes you feel like you want a little bit more of this podcast, I do it's kind of like a weekly, whenever they do a live stream, we kind of sit down, we watch it together, we do a little pre-show talk, a little after-show talk. It tends to happen about weekly. But anyways, this the live stream for this event itself is on Patreon, so if that's something you're interested for, you can go check that out, and maybe if you want a little bit extra Wilderness podcast in your life. And if you don't, that's fine. That's good. No worries there. But you can go to patreon.com/TheWildernessPodcast if that is something that fancies you. To get access, it's like $3 a month Canadian, which is like pennies if you're American. I'm kidding, it's not actually pennies. But yeah, $3 Canadian, which equals out to like 75 cents an episode if these come out weekly. Anyway, I greatly appreciate anyone who signs up. So part of the rewards you get from it as well is you get a shout out if you're the $5 or $10 tier supporters. So thank you to Sean, and thank you to our $10. Sean, you'll know who you are. just Sean. I know there's probably might be multiple Seans listening. And thank you to all of our $10 tier supporters: Gentinu, Splemo, Dreadful Monkeys, Mateo was, Sejuan, Mallard, Twisted Soul, Hoyt, and super duper shout out to Astrocity. But hey, you know what? If you're like, I don't want to sign up to Patreon, that's fine. But you still want to support the show? You can go to buymeacoffee.com/dills and you can quote unquote buy me a coffee. So thank you to Caradoc, Issaquah World, 2JZ, Soup for keeping me caffeinated. Guys, thank you so much. Seriously, thank you for all the support who has supported the show and in the future supports the show. And thank you to everyone who listens this far into the show as well. Anyways, let's get up to wrapping up the show, and I guess that's it. I'm not sure why I tacked on the end there. Okay, here we go. All right, we're back. And Heartless, you need to tell us about the next bingo competition that is about to begin in the near future.
Yes, so we've been working on this. This is our fourth bingo. Yeah, it's our fourth one. And just like the J mods with their raids, we keep getting better and better bingos. And I have to say this, I'm so excited about this board and this bingo. If you've never participated in bingo, I'm just going to break it down real quick. Basically, you're on a large team and you're given a set of 25 tasks to complete that are arranged in a 5x5 grid on a board. And you just try to ping off as many as you can as a group. And it is an absolute blast. I've never had more fun playing RuneScape than opening night and opening weekend of bingo.
It's a ton of fun. The last one we did was it was the biggest one yet, right? Because I think I missed the first two.
It's huge. We had over 60 people. First one was 20, second one was 30, third one was 40, the last one was 60 people, and it was unbelievable. I managed to one of the teams wasn't quite as balanced as the rest, but 5 out of 6, I'll take that considering I didn't know most of the people that were involved. And I had an absolute blast. I know a lot of people had a really good time. The piece of feedback was overall positive. Yeah, anyways, I'm so excited about this bingo. We've cranked up the difficulty on the board, but that doesn't mean that it's not available for all sorts of people. So it will be running from Friday, August 20th, starting at 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time and running until Friday, August 27th, ending at the same time, 6 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. And yeah, it's going to be a week long. We have to keep it a week long. Some people burn out later in the week, but that's not a big deal. We need to keep it a week long so that people who don't just have weekends off get to play the game, right? We want everyone to be able to participate in this.
I think the week is a good amount of time.
Yeah. I'm usually going hard for at least the first weekend, and then I slow down a bit, but I still, actively work on tiles. The teams are going to be at least 12 people, which is kind of what we had last time, about 10. We're going to move it up to like 12, 13 this time because we've increased the difficulty of the board. Last time, I think one team completed the board and 4 or 5 were like a tile off. This time, we don't want it so that anyone can realistically complete the board. We want it to be real hard. So that you have a lot more content to grind throughout the week. All right, so I've sent you the board dills. What are some that are jumping out to you this time?
I like the Barrows set. It's something that it's easy to do, and it's kind of like it's almost like a puzzle piece. You got 6 puzzles going at once. Which one are you gonna fill out first?
Exactly.
That one's cool because I want an excuse to go to Barrows, and I think lower levels can do it. And if you're an Iron Man, you probably have a set you're missing. So why not grind it out? That one's sick.
Barrows set is lovely. Anything else jumping out to you?
Let's see. What are we looking for here? Well, I mean, I like the Tome of Fire or Water.
Yep.
That one's nice because again, it's you don't have to be an endgame player to do it.
Mm-hmm.
That one's pretty sweet. The Champion Scroll. Good luck with that one. Super rare, but you can go kill some goblins if you want.
Yeah, lots. And that's what I love about this board is there's huge grinds, but they're also accessible by low and mid-level players. So if you're just like a level 60, a level 70 out there and you want to join, but you're afraid of all these like elite tasks on here, like Hydra, Theater of Blood. You don't have to do those. You can help your team out by doing barrows. Last time there was a guy on my team who did nothing except grind Champion Scroll and Tome of Water, and he got both of them, and he was an absolute hero in our clan.
Nice.
Because none of us were doing it. We were grinding the really end game content. So it was lovely to see a nice mix of players. So if you're out there and you're like, I just don't know if I have the skills, this is for everyone. So we've got barrow set, Ranger Boots. That's another new tile we've put on here. And no, it's not because I'm almost 400 clues dry of Ranger Boots. It's because it's fun and you can basically do them at any level. You can grind them out very quickly. I think medium clues are something like 3 mil per hour. So you can make a lot of money. It's all in the value of the Ranger Boots, of course.
Yeah, it's like it's
Pharaoh
great.
Scepter.
I think what I like is like anyone can look at the board and like, you know, I have my own goal where I want to get Venenatus, the Venenatus pet, and they have the Wilderness ring. So it's like, oh, you know what, I'll go for that one because I can kind of work towards my own goal at the same time. Or, you know, if you're a lower level and you're like, I just want a lot of money, go do some medium clue scrolls because if you get Ranger Boots, that's a shit ton of money there.
Yeah. So some of the new tiles that I'm pretty excited about, like we've made some slight changes. So instead of getting a Cerberus unique, now it's been changed to Primordial Crystal. So it's a lot more rare to get the one unique. We're now asking people to get an Arcane Prayer Scroll, which is pretty like usually a troll drop, but it'll be exciting for you. Bandos Boots and a Steam Battle Staff, which are also troll drops at the God Wars dungeon. So it would be at least nice if you get a terrible item like that. Dagon High Piece is a pretty cool, unique. You get that from doing Wilderness Slayer and unlocking the chest. So there's a lot of new things on here that are going to be exciting to grind. And there'll be something for everyone. End game, early game, Pet Hunter, just started the game. I absolutely say come on out. We have a blast in the voice chats. Usually have a few drinks, hang out, meet a lot of new friends. And yeah, overall it's a great time.
Yeah, it's a great way if you're like, you know, maybe you're a lurker and you're like, oh, maybe you want to get, maybe it's like intimidating to like meet new people or something. It's like, you know what, sign up for this. It's like when you're at school, maybe, I don't know, Harless, you ever do this where you're like, okay, I'm going to put the kids into their own groups. And it's like, you get put in a group and you don't know this person, but hey, you know what? A friendship was just born.
You know what? I actually had a child ask me, she said, can you please pick for us today because I want to meet new people?
That's sweet.
I was like, that's so sweet. I was like, you know what? I will. I have a few moans from other people, but it's a really good play. We have a really friendly CC. Everyone's very welcoming. So whoever you are, come on in and you'll make lots of friends. And yeah, I have to say the opening weekends of the past 4 bingos have been basically the highlights of my RuneScape playing time.
Yeah, like, I would think everyone was the last time everyone met. Everyone met up at the Grand Exchange and they're ready to go. And it's like
everyone's geared with their tasks ready to go. Yeah,
and they're just like, "Can someone say go, Dills? Can you just go?" And I'm like, "Is it time?"
Quick rules thing too. People that have multiple accounts, I just want to make this one clear. If you have an Iron Man and a main like me, you can use them both, but not at the same time. So you can't actively be working towards 2 tiles at once. But for example, last bingo, what I would do is I was doing blood runes on my main, which is blood runes on my Iron Man while I was doing Zami God Wars Dungeon with my team. And then later I would hop onto my Iron Man to do content while my main was just locked out. So you're welcome to use extra accounts if you have them, but just not multiple at the same time.
Yeah, totally. So it's all very cool. And you know, the last one I took a more of like, I guess, what is it, backstage approach. But I wanted to try this thing out where, I think I mentioned a while ago, and I was doing this virtual reality game, and it was like they did these like really cool stuff, and I was like, oh, we should do something for RuneScape, and then I realized how toxic and like how terrible of an idea that would have been. But one thing that I thought was cool was they had broken people off into groups, and they would have like somebody who's like, I want to ask questions. Anyways, so when broken off into teams, I just kind of went to each team and I was like, you know, here's a survey, can you fill it out? And then every day I try to do a little announcement in this channel because teams can't really see how far other teams are progressing. But sometimes it's kind of cool to be like, hey, an anonymous team just got a pet, like the very first pet of the bingo event.
Yeah.
For some reason, pets drop like crazy during these events.
Yo,
I don't know.
Pets are insane. We've probably every bingo event we have at least 5 pets, like minimum, because everyone's doing PVM all week. Last time someone got the Hydra pet within like an hour.
Yeah.
It was insane.
So if you want a pet, this is a place for it to happen.
A guy on my team got the Abyssal Sire pet like on his first or second on Sired. It was nuts.
That's crazy. Very cool. So I guess, did you mention how people can sign up?
Yeah, so the sign up will be in our Discord. If you need a link to our Discord, that will be in the show notes down below, wherever you're listening. Come in the Discord, sign up through the Google. It's basically a Google form that I'll have put out. I put a few extra questions in there this time, like what's your Discord username and what is your, what's your region, so that we can get some region-based building going on too. Because last time I had like a few random British people that were with a bunch of North Americans and they didn't get to play together.
All right, there's a big feud between the UK and the US.
That's right. This time while I'm balancing teams, I'm going to try to put like little clusters of people together so that, the Australians can maybe be on a team together. And I'll still balance them like last time. So they should be nice and fair. And with more people, there's less issues with that. So don't even worry if you can only play like an hour or two a day. There's lots of people like that. And, you'll be spread out across the teams. So.
Yeah, I think we tried it out last time. Maybe we'll talk afterwards, see if it's a good route to do. But if a team falls way, it's a lot of RNG based, which means like one team can fall way behind the rest, and that can be like disheartening if they find out how much farther behind they are. So I think maybe that's where I can get tossed onto a team midway through to kind of help flesh out. Maybe some people stop playing or aren't playing as much as they said they were going to be, which causes a hard thing to balance.
Yeah. Well, but I think with having like 12 plus people on your team, even if one person doesn't show up, you'll and RNG can go either way. You can kill like there's a guy in our clan. Brian had like 4,000 Serb case he didn't have a Prim Crystal, so he could literally work on that tile for 2 months and not get it done.
Yeah.
So RNG can go both ways too, and I think the team sizes will balance it out. But you're right, we'll have some kind of maybe backup set up. But come in the Discord, fill out the form, sign up. Entry will be 2 million golden pieces. I promise you will make more than that if you actively participate in the bingo. I think usually you take home some absolute bank if you're doing a lot of these things. If you can't afford the 2 million, you're like a really new player, just PM me on Discord and we can work something out. Or I'll just cover it for you if you're really, really new to the game. But if not, the 2 mil is just going to go towards the prize pool. And then we always have fun events and stuff like that at the end. So absolutely, I promise you will have fun if you come on out and join the bingo. So
it'll be good.
5 updates from the Summer Summit. You can't go wrong, can you?
Oh, it's crazy. And I think like again, part of the beauty of RuneScape is like all the different ways you can play it, and sometimes it's these like community related ways. We get Jagus has the leagues, Clan Wild or whatever gets the bingo event. You get to take a break from your let's say you're out there grinding, I don't know, whatever skill or whatever quest. You can take a break and participate in this week-long event that is completely different than what you're normally. Maybe you're out there killing zombies because you need a champion scroll. Who knows? That's a one step closer to that.
Gets you to pick and choose. You get to find new goals. You get to experience new content. You get to do things in groups. I took a bunch of people on raids last time. Yeah, you just do a whole bunch of fun stuff. So highly suggest coming out, learning some new content, meeting some friends.
Totally. So awesome stuff. Anything else you want to mention before we wrap this bad boy up?
I don't think so.
Awesome. So, I mean, there'll be more updates in Discord and in the following episodes. But if that's something you're interested in it, again, great turnout last time. Lots of money to be made, whether your team won or you just made a lot of loot along the way. It's fun. It's fun to get a group of, 4, 5, 6 people together, go do bandos or whatever it is, right? It's a nice break, and you get to try out some PVM content maybe you never tried before. So anyways, that's some great stuff. So yeah, speaking of Discord, if you want to access the Discord link, that's found in the show notes below. Our in-game friends chat, it's Wild CC. But if you want to join the clan itself, you can join the clan Wild, and we'll get somebody to accept you there. It's a whole wonky system, but Doesn't matter. Our email is TheWildernessPodcast@gmail.com if you want to send in some fun stories, letters, questions, whatever it is you want to send in. And our Twitter is @TheWildernessRS if that is something you fancy. All right. Now, before we get out of here, did you have a song of the week? Because this new quest we got came out with a new song as well.
Let's do it.
Okay, I was going to say let's add the song Itsy Bitsy from the new quest, but that isn't actually there. So let's do a desert themed song. Let's do Bandit Camp. The song
Nice.
Bandit Camp. So this song is unlocked at the Bandit Camp. This track and the area in which it plays were both added in a hidden update. That's interesting. In 2004, it was released. Anything else before we get on out of here?
Nope. Come join Bingo. You won't regret it. It's going to be lots of fun. And I hope you all enjoyed the 2 hour and 45 minute podcast that we just released.
Oh boy, we're going back to those days, aren't we?
Yep.
All right, thanks guys for listening. We'll see you next week.
Take care.